All right. Testing. Sweet. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Cool Beans Hot Stuff. Today is Terrifying Tuesdays, which means we're going to go over some spooky shit today. We are starting my whole, I don't really know what I'm even calling it. Um, my tour of the 50 states myths and legends. No, my Myths and Legends of All 50 States tour. Let's do that. Or All 50 States series. Where it's a working title. We'll figure it out. Whatever the fuck ever. Um but yeah, so we're gonna go through all 50 states, one at a time, spend about a 2 hour stream on each state, and we're just gonna go over some famous local myths and legends from that state. Pretty simple premise. I looked up on YouTube to see if anybody had done this yet, and they hadn't. So I seen there was a couple people who kind of, there's a person here that is from Alaska, so they do Alaska. A person here is from California, so they do California or whatever, but nobody has gone out and done a whole series hitting every single state. So I was like, well, fuck it. I'm the man for the job. I'm going to do this. And it's really good practice. I only started streaming about a month ago. So to anybody who's watching right now, thank you for tuning in. Don't get a lot of viewers around these parts as of yet, but I enjoy everyone that I can get. I also enjoy it when people come in, sit and chat and bullshit with me. So please feel free to hop into the chat and talk about whatever it is we're discussing. It's always a lot more fun for me. If you're watching this video on YouTube, thanks for checking it out. I hope you enjoy the content, and if you do, please like and subscribe, and maybe consider coming over to Twitch and hanging out with me while I'm doing this, right? And I think Cutie Pie, you're probably watching right now. So to my Cutie Pie, thank you for watching. My number one most biggest fan right there. Um, Pretty much my only fan. Hey, that's my OnlyFans. I got an OnlyFans now. It's you, cutie. All right. So, anyways, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and kick off the 50 states Myths and Legends series, or whatever you want to call it, I guess. And we're gonna start, and we're gonna just go in alphabetical order. That was like the easiest way. I thought you'd like that. uh, so that's um about the easiest way that I can think to handle it. Um, is just hit them all in alphabetical order. That way. Oh, you're so sweet, hot stuff. Jeez, look at that. I'm gonna bring the chat over here. Always your number one fan. Such a sweetheart. I just got so lucky. I got the best fan in the world. That's what it is. So, yeah, anyways, yeah, we're just gonna hit Alabama first, go in alphabetical order, right? Because, keep it simple, not favoring anybody. And so yeah, alphabetical order, unless I fucked that up, which I very well could have, but if I did, we're not gonna talk about it. That would mean Alabama is first up. And so that'll be what we're talking about in today's stream. I got a list of good Alabama myths and legends for you guys to look into. We're gonna go about read the actual myth or the legends, and then do a little bit of a dive into each one to see how true it is, at least where the legend came from, and what's going on with it nowadays, right? So where did it originate from? If it's true, what's the story behind it? Get a little bit of history on it. We're going to learn a little bit. This channel is meant to entertain, especially on Terrifying Tuesdays. I'm hoping Terrifying Tuesdays are always entertaining, but it's also meant to be educational to some extent too, right? And so, yeah, learning a little bit of history, local history about these places is really cool. And I'm hoping that at some point I can get people from these actual states in here to talk about it. When we hit Hawaii, PewDiePie will be chatting it up because she knows all about those Hawaii legends. And when we hit Wyoming, that's where my expertise will come in. We don't really have a whole lot of myths and legends in Wyoming, to be honest. So that's going to be a tough stream. Alabama, on the other hand, was chocked full of myth and legends. I had to really, I pulled up a bunch of different web pages, sifted through them. I found a whole bunch of really good ones too. This Pomeroy Foundation, this website you see right here, they had a whole big ass list of all the different myths and legends, as did a whole lot of these different web pages I got pulled up. And there was just so many of them. I read probably through got a good like 30 or 40 of them and said, okay, that's it. I'm probably going to miss some of the best ones, but I'm just going to have to pick whichever ones are the most interesting out of this like 30 or 40 legends that I just read through. Because there was just too many to count. A lot of that is due, it seems like, to the unique history of Alabama. Alabama's got a lot of history to it, man. For one thing, you have a lot of native tribes that originated in Alabama that had a lot of myths and legends. And that's where a lot of the very first instances of myths and legends came to be. I actually think we only got a couple of the natives. When we get to Alaska, there'll be a lot more native and myths and legends there, because there's still a lot of native tribes in Alaska that are still sharing those myths and legends. But this time, what Alabama had was a really deep, sordid, and messed up history regarding slavery, right? I mean, I think anybody probably could have guessed that. It's in the Deep South. From that, a very unfortunate, horrible era of time, came a lot of really interesting myths and legends. So we have a few of those popped in here too. And then we even have some modern day myths and legends that popped up. So we have a whole basket to choose from. So let's go ahead and deep dive into it. We got a lot of stuff to go over. So we will hit it. And hopefully I can get through all of it because I picked. How many did I end up picking? Let's consolidate the note card or console the note card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of my favorite. Oh no, excuse me, 9 of my favorite myths and legends. And is that? Wait, hold on a sec. I have a slide that is missing. I just realized. Where did that go? Oh, that must have went. Hold on. No. Okay. Uh, I got one missing legends. I'm missing slides for. That's all good though. We can pop up the slides for it whenever we want. But you know what? Never mind. I took it out because it was a myth and a legend that extended to other states that had a lot less. Okay. I confused myself there for a second, but I'm back on track. So, anyways, we got 8 of the most popular myths and legends then. Excuse me, 8 of them. And so, yeah, they got a lot of information to go over with you guys. So, we're going to go ahead and jump in. This first one originates from the time of slavery in Alabama. It is the legend of Henry Wells, and in Alabama, it's also called the Face in the Window. And you'll realize why here in a minute. So, the Face in the Window is often described as one of Alabama's best known legends. While multiple versions to the story exist, the common thread is that in the 1870s, a black man named Henry Wales was accused of burning down the Pickens County courthouse and was subsequently killed by an angry mob. However, before he died, Wells left a very visible reminder of his violent end for generations to come. And this, I believe, is the map where this is at. Cardilton? Is that what that says? We'll pop this up here. What is that? Carrollton. Carrollton. So it looks like it's a little town right next to the Mississippi Alabama border. In Carrollton. All right. And this actually, that mark right there, too, this is now a historical marker. So the legend of Henry Wales, I don't know when it got the historical marker, but it is now a historical marker. This courthouse that supposedly burnt down, right? So the Pickens County community had already experienced tragedy in 1865 when its original courthouse was set ablaze by Union soldiers. Following the end of the Civil War, materials and donations were difficult to come by. Despite their struggles, the community rallied together to build a second courthouse. On November 16, 1876, it too burned to the ground. Blame was eventually placed on poor Henry Wells, a freedman emancipated at the end of the Civil War who lived near town. One version of the legend goes that in January 1878, following Wells' arrest on circumstantial evidence, an angry mob gathered outside the town's third newly built courthouse. Calls grew louder and louder that a lynching was in order. While the mob searched below, Wells peered through a glass pane of an attic window where he was hiding. He shouted to the mob, "I am innocent. If you kill me, I am going to haunt you for the rest of your lives." At that exact moment, a lightning bolt struck the window, leaving an image of Wells' face etched into the glass. Meanwhile, the mob made its way into the courthouse and forced Wells outside, where they lynched him. Multiple efforts made by the sheriff to wash away the image were unsuccessful. While historians debate the timeline and actual events, as of 2021, the eerie image still remains in the garret window of the courthouse, a lingering reminder of what took place. So, there's the courthouse in question. Don't think you can see it in that picture. How do I click out of it? There we go. But right here. So there's the face in the window right there, which doesn't actually look that spooky. It looks kind of like a child drew that, right? That looks like a child's rendition of a person's face. But the story is what makes it spooky. Yeah, must be on the other side of the building. So that's the general gist of the legends, or the at least one of the many variations of the legend. So let's go ahead and read about what actually happened. There's another close up of the face in the window. Again, isn't that kind of goofy? It's kind of a goofy little face right there. I don't exactly know. Not spooky, but the story is cool though. Cool story. And apparently, from all the reading that I did, this is a pretty well-known legend around Alabama. So yeah, I wish we had some Alabama here to let us know if that's the case or not, because I'm kind of shooting in the dark. I don't think I've ever even been to Alabama. My brother lived in Alabama for a little while, my little brother, and he didn't really like it. He went back to Oklahoma. He lives in Oklahoma now, but I've never even been, so couldn't tell you how real any of these stories actually are, just that on the internet, this is what's famous, right? So, in Carlton, most North and West citizens of Alabama have at least heard about the face in the courthouse window or the ghost in the garret. In Carlton, Pickens County, many have seen the image for themselves, and many of these know the tale behind the said face, which was popularized by the storyteller Catherine Tucker Wyndham in her 1969 book, 13 Alabama Ghosts and Jeffrey. That's an odd title, and Jeffrey. A legend says a man by the name of Henry Wells was responsible for the burning of the courthouse, and that upon his arrest, citizens appeared at the courthouse and lynched him. Supposedly, he stood in the courthouse window and proclaimed his innocence, to no avail to the crowd below. A lightning flash seared his likeness in the pane glass while he was looking at the crowd. A variation of the legend says upon the sheriff's return to the courthouse, he found Wells deceased beneath the window. So, and on stormy nights, some people swear they can hear Wells' wail coming from the twisted mouth of the face in the window, as the story ends in Wyndham's book. Oh, did we drive through it? We stopped in Buc-ee's in Alabama? Was I with you, or were... I'm talking to my cutie pie, by the way. She says we've gone through it, but I don't know. I was with you? That was me that went through with you, huh? Oh. Okay, well, it was very uneventful and forgettable. Buc-ee's, I do remember Buc-ee's though. Buc-ee's is pretty fucking dope. Yeah. So, oh yeah. Okay, I do remember that. That's right. That's right. We did go through Alabama to get to Louisiana. That's right. Okay. Well, they do have an awesome Buc-ee's in Alabama, so I can at least say that much about Alabama. That place is ridiculous. All the talk everybody has about it, it's more than a gas station, and it's like, it's like, well, yeah, it's a really big fucking gas station, but you go there and it's like, oh my god, they got like fucking candied peanuts and fucking they got like a whole like little mini restaurant in there and shit. They made like fudge and shit. It was delicious. That place was awesome. So I remember that much. Okay. Um I don't actually, and I don't think we were anywhere near Carlton though, right? Otherwise, that would have been a missed opportunity to go see the face in the window. But I don't think we were anywhere near there because that was close to Mississippi. I don't know. We could have been near Carlton. I don't remember hearing that town name though. So, but yeah, anyways, upon my visit in 2021, I was able to view the face for myself and took a photo of it, which after colorizing it to reduce the glass glare and grayscaling accompanies this article. So that must be it right there. Yeah, I don't remember either, Cutie Pie. I don't remember if we were close to anywhere named Carlton, but Doesn't ring a bell, though. Burp. All right. So much of the legend can be put to rest, so to speak, by reading local newspapers at the time. Oh, what a bummer. Newspapers wrecking it for everyone. Wells was born in Alabama about 1845, according to the 1870 census. One of the first newspapers mentions of Wells lets readers know he was walking with the wrong crowd. Barton Wells, living on the Shankling Place near Fairfield, got into a difficulty last Friday, 2 weeks ago. On August 30th, 1876, newspaper stated. When last heard from, Wells was picking the shot out of his legs. Ooh, wow, that's a hell of a difficulty, yeah. Trouble began shortly thereafter when the Pickens County Courthouse burned on November 16th, 1876, most likely the work of an incendiary. It was a newly constructed courthouse in the amount of $18,000 to $20,000. An article mentioned Wells and Bill Burkhalter could have been the ones who robbed the store of Burris and Graham in Reform, which I imagine that's like a place in Alabama, on December 5th, 1876, as part of the stolen goods were found on their premises. Adding more to the legend of the Wells was the fact that on September 26, 1877, hey, that's almost my birthday. I mean, 30 years too early. Nathaniel T. Pierce was taken out of the jail in Carlton by a lynching mob and killed. Ooh. Along the way, the legend says the same about Wells, which was obviously not true. Ah, okay, well, that's good. So at least good old Henry wasn't lynched. That would be a bummer. In regards to Pierce, a detailed account was given in the newspapers. On the night of the 26th, at about 11 o'clock, he was taken from our jail by an armed mob of 30 or 40 men, cruelly and brutally dragged through the streets of our village by a rope around his neck and out about a mile on the Pickensville Road, when he was pulled up and left hanging to the limb of a tree. Jeez Louise, that got dark super quick. Oh, that was Nathaniel Pierce. Oof. During 1877, the courthouse was reconstructed, and by January 1878, it was nearing completion. Burkhalter was captured on the 6th of January, 1878, near Tuscaloosa, and according to the newspaper article, of his own free will, he gave an outline of what happened at the courthouse after mentioning the places he had robbed and burned. He also states that Henry Wells burned the courthouse, that he went there with him and saw him go into the probate office, light a candle, and search the room. He left Henry in the office and went down near Mr. Cohen's stable and waited for him. In a few minutes, Henry came up and told him that he had set fire to the damn thing, and that he got nothing out of the office, only some tobacco. Wells was captured on January 29th, 1878, on the plantation of Bill McConnor near Fairfield. Wells made an attempt to escape, and he was shot twice. Oof. He was then carried to the jail. Oh, he lived until February 3rd, 1878, before dying from the 2 gunshots. Yikes, geesh. That's what, 3 days with gunshots in you? Brutal, man. The next edition of the newspaper had the article, Dying Confession of Henry Wells. Could the confession have been coerced? Absolutely. Yeah, dude had gunshot in him, you know. I think you would say anything around that time to survive. Though the truth will never be known thanks to the passage of time. The confession was sworn to and subscribed before probate judge T.G. Williams on January 30th, 1878. On the night the courthouse was burned, we started off, and Bill Burkhalter told me that there was a large amount of money in the iron safe in the probate office. This is Henry Wells talking now, with a bunch of gunshots in him. And proposed to me that we would go in the office, break the safe open, and get the money, the confession stated. When we got to the courthouse, Bill Burkhalter raised the sash, got into the office, and lit a candle, and then attempted to break into the safe, but could not open it. He then got a hammer and attempted to open the safe, but failed. I then went in, searched, and found some tobacco and some little brass things. I left the candle near some papers. We then left. The statement also mentioned he went to Sanford County before going to Fulton, Mississippi. Over the river, I went by the name of Peter Jackson and Bill W.M. Jackson. In Sanford County, I went by the name John Williams and Bill by the name of Doc Williams. Near Wyndham, I went by the name of George Lewis. Wow, this guy's just got all kinds of aliases. The courthouse was not completed yet, and not a single one of them is memorable, neither. Peter Jackson, right, that one's memorable. Like, oh, you're the guy that made the Lord of the Rings. Interesting. But, hold on, let me pull this back up again. There we go. Okay. The courthouse was not completed yet and did not have any windows at the time, so naturally he was carried to the jail. The windows that are being fitted in their respective places in the courtroom of the courthouse makes that building look like it was nearing completion, the February 20th newspaper stated. Many people have declared his likeness in the pane was due to lightning photography, but we must remember there were no windows there yet, and it was doubtful he was ever in the garret of the nearly completed courthouse. The trial date for criminal cases was scheduled for Wells and Burkhalter on March 26, 1878. Many explanations. Isn't he dead by then? He died on February 3rd, 1878. Yeah, so he's long gone, anyways. Many explanations have been given for its presence, and many are the stories that have been told about its mysterious appearance. A 1928 newspaper article said of the face that appeared in the window, a dreadful hailstorm passed through Carlton on December 30th, 1927, which ended up breaking another pane in the window where the face is. One pane in this window was shattered, but the picture remained unharmed and still stares one in the face. Oh, that's kind of creepy. G.E. Oglesby, that's quite the name, was the carpenter who fixed the broken panes on January 6, 1928. According to the article, when one pane was replaced, another face appeared on the new pane. And still the ghastly faces looked down on the crowd that quickly assembled. The picture would fade and then return on the new pane. Interesting. Oglesby said he is not superstitious, but that picture has disturbed him even in his hours of sleep. He dreamed Saturday night that someone came to his bed in the darkness of the night and told him not to discuss the picture when asked about it, that it appeared for a purpose and that the people of Carlton would someday know and understand its meaning, and until then it would not be wise to discuss it. This guy's got some intense dreams. Must have smoked some really good weed that night. The article mentioned Burkhalter was tried and found guilty and sentenced to be hanged. He lay in a jail for a long time, and his hair grew to be very long and shaggy. He was hanged at the appointed time with his shaggy hair clustered about his troubled face. Other reports say Burkhalter was turned over to authorities in Noxubee, Mississippi for crimes committed there. And yet another report, it was said he escaped and was never seen again. So they don't even know what the fuck happened to that guy. The original face in the window was speculated to be Burkhalter, while the newer one was of the one who killed Deputy Bert C. Johnson on November 23rd, 1926. Concerned citizens entreated several responsible men to examine the pane. It was washed in acid and returned to the window, and the face was still there. There have not been any further reports in the newspapers about a second face. Upon looking today, there is only one face, and several articles have stated the glass pane has not only been washed with acid, but with soap, gasoline, and lye, all to no avail. Court documents of the 1870s have not been perused in research of this article, but there may yet be some clues in the tomes at that courthouse. A late newspaper article mentioned the county paid $7 for Wells' coffin and for burial. The whereabouts of his grave is unknown. So is this the face in the window? So is the face in the window Henry Wells? Facts probably say no. However, due to the legends which have come from this tragedy and the belief that people need to explain the inexplainable, the face will forever be known as that of Henry Wells. So that's kind of how that legend came to be, which is kind of a, what do you call that? Like anticlimactic ending, right? A bit of a cock block, you know? Bit of a ruined orgasm there. Probably not Henry Wells, probably not anybody. But that is cool how legends come about like that, you know? And it kind of says something too, right? If the legend comes around that this guy had this horrible thing done to him and had this thing done to him, and then his face appears in a window haunting people, you would think that that would almost imply that locals knew the thing that was done to him was bad, right? Because they wouldn't make up a story about his face appearing in the window if he had been like hung for a legitimate reason, or if if something, he was shooting out the window and somebody shot back and killed him, right? It'd be self-defense or whatever. They wouldn't be worried about his face in a window, right? They wouldn't be like, oh, he's haunting us. No, instead, they thought to say, oh, he's haunting us because he got fucked over. So that's kind of interesting, right? The way that the story comes about, the way that the myth is created, makes you feel like maybe Henry Wells there got the raw end of the stick and the locals knew it. And that's really where the myth comes from. It's almost like a collective guilty conscience, kind of, right? Interesting. But yeah, the face in the window, that's a big legend down there. Cutie Pie, if we ever go back to Buc-ee's, we'll have to see how close it is to Carlton to go look at the face in the window. Just to see it. I mean, it's one hell of a goofy face, but it'll be worth seeing. So we're going to move on to our second urban legend. Oh, really? In Hawaii, there's a scary story about a faceless lady. About a faceless lady in the mirror of a movie theater. I don't know the history of it though. Ooh, that'll be a good one for when we go over Hawaii Day. I will take Henry Wales over a faceless lady any day though. You know, fucking I don't know what it is, but like girl ghosts and women ghosts are like way fucking freakier than dude ghosts. To me, personally, specifically. I don't know why, but they're terrifying. Um but only in the women's bathroom. Oh, interesting, huh? Well, maybe we'll have to go back to Hawaii and check it out. You can go in there and see for me. Fucking yeah, no, the Henry Wales ghost isn't super spooky, but the the Henry Wales ghost isn't so spooky. But Faceless Lady in a Mirror, that's pretty fucking freaky. That one definitely gets me. I think that's a pretty good spooky story, right? I don't know what it is, but in any horror movie, if it's like a, you know, and especially if it's like an Asian woman ghost. Man, those are the scariest woman ghosts of them all, right? Not to, you know, ghosts are scary in general, right? I'm not trying to discredit all the other races of ghosts out there. Yeah, like The Grudge, exactly. The Grudge is fucking terrifying. I don't give a fuck. A lot of these young kids are like, it's not terrifying, bro. It's like, fuck you, son. Like, you weren't there when that shit came out. That was way fucking scary. I remember watching that in the movie theater and nobody left that movie theater feeling any kind of good, right? Everybody was real quiet leaving that movie theater like, fuck, we're all going to have a hard time sleeping tonight. The Ring is another one. Yeah, The Grudge is definitely on my list of the scariest movies I've ever seen. But the reality or the thing is, man, a lot of almost all of the Asian scary movies I've seen have like an Asian scary Asian girl ghost. And so they all go into my top 10. My whole top 10 list of scariest movies I've ever seen are all Asian scary ghost girl movies. Um there's one called The Locker that I haven't been able to find again. I have the DVD back home in Wyoming sitting in a box somewhere, but man, that movie is fucking so scary. The little girl ghost in that movie is just, oh, they just did her up so fucking awful. Her makeup is so fucking terrifying. Um let's see, what was that one? Shutter. Shutter's a really good one. Obviously The Grudge. Um well, I forget what was the name of the Jinjo or something was the original Grudge, something like that. Ringu, which we'll actually be going over that. Here, the Ring was based on an actual Japanese myth. I don't know if you know that, but the Ring movies were based off of a actual ghost, a haunted well in Japan, and I will be going over that next month. I got a whole list of the most haunted places in Japan, so we're definitely going to be talking about the Ring. And let's see what other really good ones. Oh, One Missed Call, not the American version, the original One Missed Call. A lot of people never seen that. That was oh fuck, Takashi Miike, I think is how you pronounce his name. Takashi Miike. Takashi Miike has done some real fucked up movies, but he had One Missed Call, and ooh man, that was such a scary ass movie, dude. Ooh. If you want to watch a scary movie tonight, cutie, we should watch one of those. Just saying, it's an idea. So, all right. Anyways, so our second story here, our second myth that we're going to dive into is the Witch of Hines Road, Alabama's haunting legend. I almost put the Witch of Hines Road into cryptids, but after reading on it, because I did recently a stream on Alabama cryptids. That was another thing that I'm started is a whole 50 states myths and legends series and a 50 states of cryptids, which is, you know, the study of hidden animals like Bigfoot and shit like that. I started that series this month too. So if you enjoy cryptids, that happens on the first. That's going to be the first Wednesday of every month. Is going to be a different 2 hours of cryptids in a different state. And I already dropped the Alabama one. So if you're watching this on YouTube, uh, and you enjoy cryptozoology, go check over Alabama Cryptids video. So that one was pretty good. I didn't put the Witch of Hines Roads in there though, because after reading, it's definitely more of a legend or a myth than it is like an actual like potential hidden animal thing. You know what I'm saying? But let's read about it. This one's kind of a. I think this was a long one. Yeah, this was a really thorough article I found here, which is doesn't usually happen. So we're gonna read into it. Let's check it out. Nestled in the eerie backwoods of Gadsden, Alabama, lies a chilling tale that has haunted locals and thrill seekers alike for generations: the legend of the Witch of Hines Road. The unpaved stretch of roadway, shrouded in mystery and folklore, is said to be home to a malevolent spirit whose sinister deeds have left an indelible mark on the region. Indelible. I ran into that word like 15 fucking times while doing this stream, and I only kind of know what it means. I need to figure out a better way to do that, chat. Just have to pop it back into the window, but whatever. So from tales of child abductions and blood-soaked rituals to a spectral hellbound and a burning shack. Oh, a spectral hellhound. I was like, that sentence makes no sense. A spectral hellhound and a burning shack. The Witch of Hines Roads is one of Alabama's most spine-chilling urban legends. In this detailed exploration, we dive deep into every facet of this haunting story, uncovering the origins, the eerie encounters, and the lingering paranormal legacy that continues to captivate imaginations today. So, the origins of the legend. The legend begins in the early 19th century, in a time when Gadsden was a small, tight-knit community surrounded by dense forests and rugged terrain. According to local lore, an old woman, often referred to as Torbit or simply the Witch, lived in isolation in a ramshackle cabin tucked away in a hollow or holler near a murky pond off Hines Road. Described as both beautiful and terrifying, she was said to possess long raven hair and piercing emerald eyes that belied her sinister nature. Whispers among the townsfolk painted her as a mystic who had sold her soul to the devil in exchange for eternal youth and dark powers. For over two decades, children from Gadsden began to vanish without a trace. Fearful parents warned their little ones to steer clear of the woods near Hines Road, where the witch was rumored to lure her victims. The stories claimed she kidnapped these children, bound their hands and feet, and drowned them in the pond as part of gruesome sacrificial rituals. Did we get a timeline on this? 19th century is when this happened. Okay, so it could have been that's a pretty giant span of time there. But anyway, the stories claimed. Oh yeah, we already went that. Some versions of this tale insist she bathed in their blood to preserve her youthful appearance, sort of like a Elizabeth Bathory type thing going on here, while others say she decorated her shack with their bones, turning her home into a macabre shrine of death. According to the terror, adding to the terror was her supposed companion, a massive, fiery-eyed black dog, often called a hellhound. The spectral beast was said to guard her property, its glowing red eyes piercing the darkness as it prowled the woods, ensuring no one dared approach her lair. Together, the witch and her hellhound became the stuff of nightmares, a cautionary tale whispered around campfires and dinner tables. And here's a good YouTube video on it. I'll link this whole article in the description for all you YouTubers, because it's a pretty good video, but it was like a half hour to 45-minute long conversation on just the Witch of Hines Road. So I didn't want to throw it up on stream because we're already getting pretty much all the information in this one article. But still, if you want to hear some local Alabama folks talk about it, then check out that YouTube video. Okay, the town's retribution, a fiery end. Okay, because somebody has to die if this is going to be a legend, right? It's not enough for there to just be a witch. They got to eventually kill the witch, and now her ghost has to haunt everybody. Spoiler alert. By 1939, the people of Gadsden had reached their breaking point. Okay, here we go. 1939 is when this supposedly happened. The mayor, driven by the growing number of missing children and mounting pressure from terrified residents, rallied a posse of brave souls to confront the witch. Armed with torches and fueled by a mix of fear and fury, they ventured down the treacherous Hines Road to her secluded hollow. What they found was beyond comprehension. The pond, once a simple body of water, was allegedly stained crimson with blood, surrounded by the scattered remains of children, bones, body parts, and even their entire bodies floating in its murky depths. Ooh. Nearby stood the witch's shack, a decrepit structure that reeked of death. As the posse approached, they saw her standing in the doorway, naked and drenched in blood, her beauty both mesmerizing and horrifying. When asked if she was the infamous Torbit, she confirmed her identity with a chilling calmness. Without hesitation, the mob hurled their torches at the shack, setting it ablaze. Flames engulfed the wooden structure, and the witch was consumed by the fire. Wow, that's a very anticlimactic way to go out, right? As the blaze roared, her cackling laughter echoed through the night, a sound so haunting that it was said to carry all the way back to the village. Some versions of the story claim she perished in the inferno, while others suggest she fled into the woods with a young boy, possibly her own child, still burning as they vanished into the darkness. The townspeople watched the smoke rise, believing they had rid themselves of her evil once and for all. But of course, they were wrong. You silly, silly townsfolk. It's so funny, right? Because they end up in real life burning the witches that end up being normal people. You don't really want to burn a witch. According to every single myth and folk legend I've ever heard, burning the witch is like the start of your problems, bro. This is a good YouTube video too. Again, a long one, so I didn't include it in the stream, but this guy actually goes to Hines Road with an EMF meter and all his little ghost finding gadgets and gadgets and sees what he can find. A friend of mine, Sean, was wanting to set up a kind of like ghost hunting live stream, which I thought would be super fucking dope. If that happens, I'm definitely in on that. I'm definitely road tripping to go check out some fucking ghosts. The haunting legacy of Hines Road. Though the witch's physical form may have been destroyed, her malevolent spirit is said to linger, forever tied to Hines Road and its surrounding woods. The legend evolved over time, growing darker and more elaborate with each retelling. Burp, right in the middle of the spooky story. Today, Hines Roads is a notorious haunt for paranormal enthusiasts, locals, and curious visitors willing to brave its eerie reputation. And so here are some of the paranormal encounters that have supposedly happened on Hines Road. Countless tales of supernatural activity have emerged from those who've dared to explore this infamous stretch. Drivers passing through at night report seeing a ghostly figure, sometimes a woman, sometimes a shadowy beast, darting across the road or peering from the trees. Others claim their cars inexplicably stall near the pond, leaving them stranded as an oppressive silence descends. Oh, those damn oppressive silences, I tell you. Only to be broken by faint whispers or the distant howl of a dog. The pond itself remains a focal point of the legend. Once said to be stained with the blood of the witch's victims, it's now a stagnant, scum-covered body of water that exudes an unsettling aurora. Visitors have reported seeing orbs of light flitting across its surface, believed by some to be the restless spirits of the murdered children. Others swear they've seen the witch's ghost near the water, dipping her hands into it as if washing them in blood once more. A nearby cave, possibly an old coal mine shaft, adds another layer of dread to the tale. Known locally as the Witch's Cave, it's said to emit a foul, inexplainable odor that deters even the bravest explorers. That's where this fella goes, to the Witch's Cave. Those who venture inside describe an overwhelming sense of unease, with some claiming to have seen strange apparitions like a skinned, growling dog standing upright. Oh, that is fucked up. Or heard disembodied voices echoing from its depths. The cave is rumored to have served as a storage den for the children's bones, a grim testament to the witch's atrocities. The Hellhound's enduring presence. The witch's hellhound remains a key figure in the haunting narrative. Witnesses describe sightings of a massive black dog with glowing red eyes lurking in the woods or pacing along the road. Some believe it's still guarding its mistress's territory, while others think it's a manifestation of her lingering evil. Other creatures' unearthly howls are said to pierce the stillness of the night, sending chills down the spines of anyone within earshot. Cults and rituals, modern-day mystery. In recent years, rumors have surfaced of satanic worshippers and cults visiting Hines Road to conduct rituals under the cover of darkness. Local whispers of strange symbols carved into trees, flickering lights in the woods, and the faint sound of chanting carried on the wind. Whether these stories are true or simply an extension of the legend, they've only deepened the road's sinister reputation. Right? So there's just like all kinds of shit in this legend. This legend just covers everything. We got spooky ass dogs. We got a skin dog that stands upright. That's pretty fucking freaky. I mean, that's not grudge freaky, but you know, you wouldn't want to run into that in a dark alleyway for sure. You got a witch that kills kids, bathes in their blood, a pond filled with blood. You got orbs of the children's ghost flying around that bitch. All kinds of fucked up shit happening. And now we have cult people there too, doing all kinds of freaky shit. So, the witch's identity, a fact or a fiction? While the tale of the Witch of Hines Road is steeped in vivid detail, its historical accuracy remains questionable. Well, yeah, I guess we probably could have imagined that, right? That is a bummer, though. Sometimes I wonder if sometimes I feel like I don't even want to read the fact or fiction part because the legend's so much fun. But we're going to still read into it. I'm going to give you guys as much of the backstory as I've been able to find, so. Some speculate that Torbit might have been a real person, perhaps a reclusive woman named Sarah Torbit, or even a figure like Miss Humphrey, whose house once stood near the mill pond in the area. Others argue she was a scapegoat, a victim of superstition and fear in a rural community prone to exaggeration. The lack of concrete evidence, such as records of missing children or a burned shack, suggests the story may be pure folklore, born from the collective imagination of a town seeking to explain the unknown. Yet the persistence of the legend hints at a deeper truth. Whether the witch was a flesh and blood killer or a fabricated boogeyman, her story taps into universal fears of isolation, the supernatural, and the darkness that lurks just beyond civilization's edge. Whoever wrote this article is really, really good. Good writer. A lot of times we hit these articles and the writing is just like, just a big old fucking stale fart. But whoever wrote this is killing it. Who's the writer of this? Dr. Evelyn Harper. Good on this lady for fucking killing it, man. Okay, visiting Hines Road today. For those brave enough to seek out the Witch of Hines Road, the journey is not for the faint of heart. Located in Gadsden, Alabama, about 56 miles northeast of Birmingham. Oh shit, that's where my little brother lived, Birmingham. Hines Road is a rough, unpaved path that winds through dense woods. The pond and cave are still accessible, though finding them can be challenged without local guidance. The road's remote location and eerie ambiance make it a hot spot for ghost hunters, especially around Halloween, when the veil between the worlds is said to thin. Visitors are advised to tread carefully, both for safety and respect. The area is private property in parts, and tales of being followed by unseen forces or chased by mysterious vehicles add a modern twist to the legends of terror. So fuckers be on people's property and getting shot at, and they're like, oh, this witch, she fucking has a shotgun, bro. Whether you encounter the witch, her hellhound, or simply the weight of the story itself, Hines Roads is an unforgettable experience. And lastly, why the legend endures. The Witch of Hines Road endures because it's more than just a ghost story. It's a cultural artifact, a blend of history, fear, and the human need to make sense of the unexplainable. It's a tale of vengeance, loss, and the supernatural amplified by the atmospheric setting of Alabama's backroads. For Gadsden locals, it's a rite of passage to share the story, while for outsiders, it's a chilling glimpse into the state's haunted heritage. As of March 17, 2025, the legend shows no signs of fading. Social media buzzes with accounts of recent paranormal encounters, and the road remains a pilgrimage site for those drawn to the macabre. Whether you believe in the witch's existence or see her as a product of folklore, one thing is certain. Hines Roads will continue to cast its spell over all who dare to explore its haunted depths. Well done, Miss Evelyn Harper. That was a good article. Yeah, I'm gonna pull up on a map where Gadsden is. Just had the brilliant idea of seeing where all these places are and how far they are. Let's Emma. Let's see. Actually, I got go to. All right. I'm just curious because what is it? Okay, so we're around Meow, like in this area right here, and it's too much. Okay, Alabama. There's Birmingham. Okay, we went through Jackson, Alabama. PewDiePie. That's where we were at. This is Birmingham. Where did it say? Gadsden was 56 miles northeast of Birmingham. Gadsden. I am not. Oh, I guess Gadsden, Alabama. There it is. Well, that's not that far away from where we're at. That is, where is it? Only 3 hours and 14 minutes by car. Ooh, that's cool. Okay, all right. So Cutie Pie, we went through. Oh, that's Jackson, Mississippi. Okay, my bad. Yeah, not Jackson, Alabama. There is a Jackson, Alabama, though. Of course there is. There's like a Jackson in every single southern state. Where was the Hal's Legend? Where did that pop up? That was like, or not Hal's Legend. That's another one. Henry Wells. That was Carrollton. So when we went through Alabama, wow, we probably went really close to Carrollton, actually. Because we went through, here's the Mississippi Alabama line. Coming down this way. Did we go through Muscle Shoals? That would be crazy if we went through Muscle Shoals. And I didn't even think about it. They got a very famous recording studio there. That's why I was kind of intrigued by that. When I was building a recording studio in Denver, Colorado, my business partner took a bunch of the studio employees to Muscle Shoals to go see some of the famous Muscle Shoals recording studios. And I didn't go because I had to fix the $250,000 mixing console that he fried by turning it on in the wrong order. So that was awesome. So I missed that. That would be crazy if we drove through that. But yeah, that's not that far away neither. Both of that's only 4 hours and 18 minutes. So the Gadsden is much closer, but pretty crazy. We might have to check that out, Hot Stuff. I'm going to keep that up just in case. So that's the Witch on Hines Roads. Which I think that story is so fucking cool. I think for me, as far as the legends go, my number one is The Witch on Hines Road so far. I think that would make a sick fucking movie, right? I could totally see somebody turning that into a really fucking creepy ass movie, right? Just like the Witch's story, and then the aftermath of ghost children. Like, I think that's where the story would be coolest, is, when the townspeople kill the witch, and then her coming back from the dead, the ghost of the children, the ghost of her big ass dog, and then people going out to the woods to pray to her, all kinds of shit. You could, that's like, you can make a Quentin Tarantino movie out of that shit because there's so many ghosts in there, right? But anyways, that one was one of my favorites so far. But they do get better and better, right? So let's move on to our third story. This is the Dead Children's Playground. Okay, so if that doesn't sound scary, then you're just unscarable. That's what that is. Here, let me put this away. We'll move over to the YouTube screen and go full screen with this. We're going to watch this short video on this Huntsville, Alabama legend. Check it out.
It's a Huntsville legend that's steeped in mystery and folklore. It's a place you might have visited on a night like this. Maybe you drove your car up the road near Maple Hill Cemetery to see if there are youthful ghosts from long ago still playing here. Maybe you've aimed your headlights into the dark, hoping to catch a glimpse of a swing moving on its own, as if a small child is there right now, in spirit. Welcome to the Dead Children's Playground. In the daylight, this place seems like any other neighborhood playground, so I wanted to dig a little deeper and discover why New Jersey-based author James Cain chose it as the setting for his disturbing new horror novel. You'll hear from James a little later in the newscast, but first, I spoke with local author and noted historian Jackie Reeves to ask why there might still be spirits of dead children from long ago playing here.
We know that the Spanish flu arrived here in Huntsville.
Yeah, so that's the legend right here, where she's going to go into where it comes from and what, particulars of the legend. We're going to go a little bit deeper into some of the ghosts that have been supposedly spotted here, but that's the legend here in Huntsville, is this playground is haunted by dead children who swing on the swings and play on all the shit whenever they feel like, I guess. But yeah, that's the legend.
In October of 1918. At that time, over 300 people died in the month of October. And here at Maple Hill Cemetery, there were more burials in 1918 than any other year. And if you had somebody in your family that passed away, you would put their body on the front porch, notify someone to come pick them up, and they would be buried without benefit of family or clergy present.
So, of those 300, is there an estimation of how many of them were children?
No, we don't know it because they didn't have the exact forensics that they have now. So most of the children were listed as having died from teething, from having their teeth come in.
What?
There are
That's
some people
crazy.
who say that this playground is haunted.
And this is 1918, right? This is just over 100 years ago. They thought that it was a thing for kids to die because their teeth were coming in. That's fucking crazy. I mean, I'm from Wyoming, so I can't say nothing, all right? The what we always say in Wyoming is we're like 20 years behind everybody else, right? When you all had, full-fledged cars, we were still pulling buggies through stoplights. When everybody else was protesting Vietnam, we were still shooting each other over card games. But y'all in Alabama need to keep up with the rest of the world. Damn. I think kids are dying because of their teeth, and that's pretty crazy.
And there are others who say that it isn't, but people who say it is swear by it and say that the swings will swing by themselves, or somebody told me last week that they had a child sitting on the swing and she just started swinging by herself and she wasn't able to do it herself. So is it or is it not? I think that's why the gates are locked after dark.
Have there ever been reports of actual children, alive children, interacting with dead children?
Some people say that it happens, but children have imaginations, and adults do too.
I love that. Well, children, they imagine dead shit all the time, right? Kids are always talking to other dead kids. It's no big deal. That happens.
So first, I kind of want to know, how did you first come across the story of the Dead Children's Playground?
So I forget his name, but this is a guy, he wrote a book. I'll get the year for you when we're done with the video. But he wrote a book on the dead children, not about the Dead Children's Playground, but based in the Dead Children's Playground.
I came across an article called The Scariest Urban Legend from Each State. And of course,
Somebody's stealing my fucking idea. Got to get a lawsuit out there. Copyright.
Alabama's legend was the Dead Children's Playground, and something about it just stuck out to me, and I knew it was going to be one of the first ones, if not the first one in the series I did, and it ended up being the first one.
What about
that guy's voice is really, really high pitched, right? My voice is high pitched, but that guy's is like, beep, 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 beep. Like, that's a really high pitched voice for a dude. But anyways, yeah, obviously this, a lot of these stories would be really cool books and movies. I'd have to check this book out, see how good it is. I've never heard of him as an author, so maybe we'll look into it and see how good his book is. Our voices do not sound similar at all, Cutie Pie. That's right. That LOL better be JK. Yeah, JK is right, damn it. And here I was going to watch a scary movie with you tonight. No more, no more. I'm pouting the rest of the night.
the story kind of just stuck with you?
it's just something about it, and something about the idea of the spirits of the children being able to play somewhere after they're no longer here on Earth. It's just something about it. Just like I said, as a parent and as someone who enjoys horror and things that actually scare you, there was so much there to mine and to make a story out of, and I think because it scared me, I think that's why it was such a compelling topic to write about.
You're not based locally. You're obviously from New Jersey. So how much research did you do about the local area?
There were little snippets here or there, different forums, different social media posts, some YouTube videos, things I found. But those kind of stories basically told us about the cemetery and the legend of the playground, and how the swings come alive at night, and you can hear the laughter and chills and see the orbs and things like that.
So we also talked about in our emails that you did change the names of a couple of different things. For example, there's in the book, it's Big Al's Deli. Now there is a deli in downtown Huntsville, but it's a Jimmy John's. Or you mentioned the church. There is
you can't put that in your book. You'll probably get sued.
There's a church in downtown Huntsville, but you changed the name. Why did you change some of the names?
Because I didn't think, due to the nature of the story, especially with schools, that was important when you're dealing with ghosts of children and children being in peril and deceased. The last thing I wanted to do was use actual real school names.
Nah, he just didn't want to get sued. That's what it is. But, okay, well, there you have it. That's the Dead Children's Playground. When did this come out? This was only 3 months ago. Oh, wow. I wonder when this guy's book came out. Hold on. Let's do a little sleuthing. We're going to sleuth around. For the record, Cutie, our voices might sound similar, okay, but my muscles are way bigger than that guy's, all right? So, not even comparable. I'm allowed to have kind of a girly voice, right? Because I look more like Mike Tyson. So guys like us are allowed to have girly voices, okay? So chill. What was I even going to type in? Shit, I completely forgot what I was doing. Oh, yeah, that book. The Dead Children's Playground. Oh, you're so sweet, hot stuff. No, yeah, we're just joking. I thought it was a funny joke, though. I got a kick out of it. Okay. The Dead Children's Playground. When did this come out? Where's the date? There we go. August 20th, 2024. Okay. And what was the rating on this? Where are people landing on this guy? 4.5 stars. Oh, wow. Not doing too bad. Mr. Girly Voice here knows how to write. Look at that. Plot. The overall plot is very grabbing. The epilogue should have stopped reading before I got to it. Can't believe people have a happy ending. I took a half star off just for that. That's kind of funny. Lots of creepy things in the story. Characters well developed. Setting well described. Incredible. It was creepy, unnerving, and gut-wrenching. Ooh. Wow. True story. Okay. This guy got married in the Maple Hill Cemetery, which obviously houses the real-life Dead Children's Playground. Amazon pushed this to me the day it came out, but I held off on reading it out of fear that I would have a fictionalized story of a place I care about. I was wrong. James did a great job adding new, more interesting pieces to the already existing folklore and rumors surrounding Maple Hill. I actually liked the ending. I see other people didn't. Overall, a solid and enjoyable read. Yeah, Cutie, I might have to. I was thinking about maybe doing that. Give James, Mr. Girly Voice here, a chance with his book. Yeah. How do I widen this? Fuck. Okay. Yeah, might be worth adding to the reading list, though. Yep. I don't know. I got a lot of them. I was just doing research on another Chuck Palahniuk novel, so I might have to hit that up first. Okay, and so let's go over some of the ghosts. So we know what the Dead Children's Playground is, right? We've seen it. Here it is. I think this is an old variation of the playground. And it's because of the cemetery that's close by, the Maple Hill Cemetery. The ghosts from Maple Hill Cemetery, the children wander over to come play in the playground. Is the gist of it. Yeah. So some of the ghosts. Let's take a list. Let's take a gander into this. By the way, this website is fucking dope. If you guys like spooky shit, which if you're watching this on YouTube, you're probably watching it because you like spooky shit. Realhaunts.com is the name of this. Oh, hold up. There we go. Hi again. Yeah, realhaunts.com, and look at all these like haunted everything. They got just about damn near haunted everything on here as far as categories though, and really awesome. This was a really awesome article too. It goes really in depth. We can skip all this because this is basically what that lady in the video was saying, right, about the cemetery and everybody dying and all that good stuff. But yeah, anyways, okay. According to many eyewitnesses, between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m., the spirits of the children who lost their lives due to the pandemic are said to use the playground. That's not the coronavirus pandemic either. Anytime everybody hears that, they always think coronavirus, COVID. This was back in, what was it, 1918. Are said to use the playground for their own fun. Images and videos have been captured of swings swaying by themselves and light orbs using the slide. Ghost hunters with varying credentials have returned on several occasions to measure the electromagnetic fields. On no occasion have they left disappointed. And what's a bummer about this is I read that, then went to look on YouTube for videos. And I think I found some, but they were like an hour long. So I was like, well, I'm not going to play that on stream. Maybe, if the stream gets a little more popular, I'll start adding hours to the stream, But throwing down 2 hours a day is pretty good where I'm at this point in time. So, but yeah, that was all I could find. I couldn't find any short videos on any, but there wasn't a lot of videos of people in the playground doing that kind of stuff, which was a huge bummer because that would have been fun to add to the stream, but maybe next time. We still got 49 states to go, and I'm sure a lot of them probably have Dead Children Playgrounds or something of the sort too. So, what has been named by locals as a Dead Children's Playground is a meetup spot for young people and ghost hunters alike. There have been reports of hearing children play and talking to one another, swings moving on their own, and ghostly figures floating by. The sightings have spanned decades, and the commonality between these findings is that they are all children. Although many of the spectators believe that these are the spirits of the children affected by the pandemic in 1918, others discuss the possibility of child ghosts coming from something much darker. Ooh. According to another local tale, there were a series of disappearances in the 1960s, all of which were children, and not many are said to have been found. With a suspected serial killer in the neighborhood, it did not come as a shock to a friendly walker who happened to stumble across a child's skull at the park. Oh shit. Allegedly, several small corpses and skeletons were found beneath Drost Park. Testing is whispered to have shown that the corpses were children who had been through extreme trauma, malnourished, have wounds that were only partially healed, and showing signs of prolonged detainment. Oh, that's horrible. According to local sources, the person responsible for these murders was never found, and the children continue to play out their childhood on the apparatus at the Dead Children's Playground. In 2008, the Alabama Paranormal Society investigated the park. They were struck by the amount of activity, think they meant to say struck, by the amount of activity that they found during the night. Again, likening the noises and movements to the play of children. Some footage of this was released. Interesting. As images and videos continue to be made of the spirits, no one appears to be afraid of the children who are continuing to live their endless sleep innocently and pure. In fact, families still use the grounds during the day and teenagers still frequent it at night, all aware of the ghostly world that could be beneath their feet. Interesting. So there you have it. Dead Children's Playground. Not a dangerous place, but entertaining. Really cool legend. Let's see where that's at. So that was in Huntsville, right? What was Maple Hill Cemetery? Maple Hill Cemetery. Right there. In Huntsville. That's only a 2-hour drive away. Cutie. 2 hours to Huntsville and then just another hour to Gadsden. Where was Gadsden at? Right here. So, and that's almost a straight shot right out of Nashville. Just pew! Right there. Boom. Bam. Huntsville. And it looked like Huntsville looked like a cute little town too. So, Huntsville and then Gadsden. So we can go hit the Huntsville Dead Children's Playground and then drive an hour down to Gadsden and go see the Witch of Hines Roads. You, me, and Bundy maybe one day. That would be pretty cool. See if we can fly Sean and Maddie out here, because Sean's girlfriend Maddie is a what do they call it? What'd she say? Cutie pie? Not a psychic, like a medium, right? What's the name? She can talk to dead people. I don't know what they call that. A medium, I think it is. But yeah, medium. Okay. So she is a medium. I think she's starting a YouTube channel about that too. But yeah, if we can convince them to fly out to Nashville and then just take like a day or two to hit all these crazy haunted places, that would be so much fun. That would be way cool. Okay, so moving on, I still think Hines Road, the Witch of Hines Road, is scarier. Dead children are freaky, don't get me wrong. I ain't, about that dead children life, but the witch is still creepier, right? The order goes creepy ass female ghosts first, dead children ghosts second, and then dude ghosts third. So this next one is kind of a cool legend, though not spooky, but kind of neat, interesting, and has a really cool backstory to it too. This one also has a historical marker in Alabama. This is in Carlton, Alabama. This is Hal's Kingdom, the legend of Hal's Kingdom. So this is going back into Alabama's history of slavery. And this was a really cool story. I read this and I could actually see Jordan Peele making a movie about this. That would be such a fucking crazy sick movie. But anyway, let's jump into it. So, deep in Clark County, Alabama, just north of the convergence of the Tombigbee and Alabama rivers, lies Hal's Lake. The lake is named for an enslaved man who escaped and, according to legend, discovered the isolated body of water in the early 1800s, where he created his own kingdom, comprised of escaped, formerly enslaved people. As legend tells it, the lake was surrounded by a thick foliage of cane, trees, and vines, and full of wildlife, including alligators and bears. Making it even more inhospitable was its location at the merging of two rivers, an area prone to flooding which would create marshes and swamps. Hal, a fugitive from a plantation in Mississippi, discovered the lake while on his dangerous journey to freedom. He originally considered the lake as a hiding spot for himself and the small group with him, but after seeing the benefit to the secluded spot, he decided to invite others seeking freedom to join him there. Over time, Hal made contact with other enslaved people and persuaded them to escape to the lake. Soon around 20 freedom seekers were residing at the hideout. Hal ruled the group as its leader and demanded unquestioning obedience. As a result, it became known as his kingdom. They built 2 cabins along the lake and sold animal hides to locals to generate an income. Some believe that this money was used to purchase guns and ammunition since they were already in the process of fortifying their modest community. A 5-year period of peace for Hal and his people followed, but sadly, Hal's kingdom would not last. There is some debate as to what ultimately led to its collapse. Some believe that Hal's subjects began to steal local livestock for food, and that angry townspeople captured a man by the name Joshua, who revealed the location of Hal's kingdom. Others claim that an exiled subject, bitter about his expulsion from the kingdom, betrayed the community and revealed its secret location. The Literary Register provides additional details about the incident. A group of slave owners headed to the lake. They attacked the escapees and conquered them. 3 were shot, including Hal, who died from wounds sustained in the battle. Some managed to escape, while those captured were returned to their plantations. Regardless of the outcome, the remote lake, now known as Hal's Lake, leaves behind no visible trace of the former settlement. Stories about the enclave known as Hal's Kingdom have survived, predominantly through oral tradition, to this day. Many historians are convinced that Hal's Lake served as a stop on the Underground Railroad, which is kind of neat. So that's the legend, right? I did manage to find this right here. This is Clark County unpatented.com. This is part of the US Gen Web project. I don't know what that is, but this is a working history of Hal's Lake. So this is a collection of historical documents that they're putting together. It is huge. I mean, if we look, it just keeps going. I even got, let me turn it on. Look at this. It is so much fucking information just about Howes Lake. Every bit of information they could find to figure out the true story behind Howes Lake. Now, obviously, we're not going to go over all this because it's just way too much. I could spend a whole 2-hour stream and probably not get through this. Look, and I'm still going, guys. It's still, oh, we're still scrolling, still scrolling. That's fucking crazy. It just keeps on going, man. There's so much information about this out there. And it keeps getting added too. So but it's all what's been in historical documents. Wanted to put this in the, not the comments, the description of the YouTube video for anybody who's interested in the story to read on their own about all the various different people who were associated with Howes Lake and what they know about them. But yeah, we were going to read up to, let's see, where was my stopping points? Okay, we're going to read into this little, what would you call it? I guess a letter. So this was, I thought, kind of interesting. So we're going to read a tiny bit into it, give you the beginning of it. So yeah, let's take a look. So, okay, we'll start here. This is a good place to start, I suppose. Back into the 1780s and perhaps earlier, there had been a problem of runaway slaves going up into the Indian country above Tensaw and above the cutoff. Spaniards called the runaways cimarrones and occasionally had to go get them. One of these raids was detailed in a Spanish colonial report which went to Spanish territorial records holdings in Cuba and ultimately to Seville. The first Alabama historian to have come across a Spanish record was David H. White, who died some years ago. So what we're going to read is from this collection of historical documents. We finally located a photocopy of the original handwritten 1789 Spanish report. Thanks to John Marston, a descendant of the James family of Lower Clark County, and his wife Carmen, we have a literal translation of the report, which is as follows. First, let's get the cast of characters straight. Juan Vicente Fulch. We're going to call him Juan, well, because that's his name. Juan was governor of Spanish Mobile from 1787 to 1792. He had a good bit of interaction with the settlers of Tensaw, and several were involved in this raid into the swamp in late February and early March of 1789. First among the Tensaw settlers was John Linder Sr. Linder was born in Bernay, Switzerland in 1720 and lived many years in Charleston, South Carolina, where he was an engineer and surveyor for the British. Alexander McGilvray went to South Carolina and actually recruited settlers, including Linder, for the Tensaw area, because the Creeks wanted law-abiding settlers in the Spanish district who would follow Spanish law and not encroach on Indian lands. Linder became the alcalde or Capitan de Partido, cutie pie, I need your Spanish over here, for the Tensaw district under Spanish law. In effect, the all-purpose local Spanish government representative around the Tensaw area. In the Tensaw census of 1789, he and his son had 33 horses and 230 cattle. 4 years later, they had 82 slaves and probably still had at least that many in 1789. They raised corn, tobacco, rice, and garbanzo or chickpeas. Linder was clearly the top man in the Tensaw area. His son, John Linder, Jr., was mentioned in the Spanish report and perhaps went on this mission. The last British governor of East Florida, Patrick Tonnan, wrote his Spanish successor, Vicente Manuel de Cespedes, that John Linder Jr. had by the mid-1780s become the leader of a rowdy band of disbanded men from the British and American armies, together with some vagrants from the different provinces, who were called banditti, and who engaged in repeated acts of robbery and rebellion before taking refuge in the swamps. Tonnan recommended to his Spanish successor in 1784 that Linder Jr. be expelled from East Florida, and by the next year was living in Tensaw. So, John Linder Jr., he's a little bad boy. John Linder Sr., he's a slaver. Okay, so not the best genes in the family, I suppose. And, okay, yeah, so Cornelius McCurtain was an Irishman who came to West Florida about 1769 and, under the Spanish government, became an officer in the Spanish militia at Pensacola and Mobile. In 1789, he was 37 years old and lived on a corn and chickpea plantation in the Tinsaw area with his wife, Euphrosyne. That's a hell of a name. Bossage. Kind of like sausage, but bossage. We're going to call her Bossage. Bossage the sausage. He also owned property on Dauphin Street in Mobile. Lieutenant Joseph Deville de Guten Bellachese, these names, was a Spanish officer, probably of French ancestry. Oh, well, that's why I can't say his fucking name. I can't say anything French. Who founded Fort Saint Esteban de Tombecby. This is embarrassing. I can't say anything in any language, really. Which ultimately became St. Stephen's. Well, okay, let's just call it St. Stephen's then. In 1789, when Indian trouble was brewing with the Tombigbee and Tensaw settlers, de Goutin replaced Linder as the local Spanish official. So, if you can remember all these people, here is the literal translation of the Spanish government report. This is of a raid that happened in February of, 1789? A raid of Howes Lake. So, the 22nd of last month, February, I was in Mr. Linder's home with the purpose of learning which of the people he thinks will be more suitable for the expedition against the Cimarron black people. Remember, Cimarron means the escaped slaves, okay? Immediately, he went around all the Finza district in the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, where we were grouped to go to the first campsite. News was that it had 8 of these Cimarron. Blank, 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 to distant place, blank, therefore blank, practical, since it was not possible to find it, blank, blank, day to attack them. So I guess we can kind of figure out what they're saying there. Let's see. Distant place. Okay, so they're going someplace to a more practical place. Yeah, I don't know what they were trying to say there. Anyway, the bayou where we were supposed to enter was covered with stalks of blank and blank, which prevented us to walk without noise. It was very difficult to find the pier, which we would have never found had it not been for a canoe tied to the cane brake. As soon as we disembarked, we heard noise made by the Cimarrons, which sounded by their footsteps that there were only two, and also we found in a promontory the cabin. The rest of the terrain was covered with water, and when we tried to go in pursuit, it was impossible since we were wet from head to toe, as were our arms. Notwithstanding, I ordered that a group stand guard in the cabin, thinking that unless the Cimarron had beforehand stashed another canoe just in case, they would not stand the coldness of the surrounding land where they were and could be caught and added to the ones I had in the cabin. After that, I went with the rest of the people to the camp closest to the second campsite. Beforehand, I tried to find out as much as I could about the other Cimarron, where the other Cimarron were, the ones I was trying to catch, and had no other alternative but to close all the mouths of all the bayous where they could come in and out. On the third day, we were on guard. I felt sick, and I felt I needed to go back to Movilla, but I ordered that immediately Lieutenant Don Jose, that's the guy with the name I can't pronounce, should take my place, and to whom I gave my instructions, the same he understood perfectly. One of the canoes guarding the streams captured 2 Cimarron that were coming back to the house the 6th day of the siege. One of these Cimarron immediately offered to show the way where the others were, and with no delay led Lieutenant Don Jose and Lieutenant Don Lewis and found another Cimarron around 11 o'clock at night, and were able to capture 11 more, and luckily they had not seen more than 13 of them, which means they were the ones we have captured. In addition, we have also captured another Cimarron that belongs to Madama Wasson. The 13 of the Cimarron belong to the heirs of the deceased Don Juan Batista Lure, and I hope they do not mind I gave the sum of 120 pesos to the ones that had helped us, meaning the poor 12 people that I had taken from their chores to employ them in this service, and that Juan Linder Jr. and Don Cornelius agreed, and I think they need to receive a letter of acknowledgement thanking them for their zeal. Who is he thanking for his zeal in here? Is he thanking his zeal to the escapees that turned on the others? Is that who he's thanking for their zeal? I don't know. I didn't quite understand that. suffice it to say that they weren't really good riders back in the 1700s, right? We're just going to go with that. As you are aware of the bad times we have had from the second to date, and taking into consideration the hardships the capture of the Cimarrons have caused to all involved, I beg of you to order that Lieutenant Don Jose and Lieutenant of the Army Don Lewis are named in the service records. I am sending you the Cimarron captures so you can dispose of them in any way you want and at your convenience. Ooh, that is very sinister. May God guard you in Movilla, 7th March 1789. Vicente Fulch. Was this report of the capture of Hal and his group? Impossible to say at this point. Maybe not, but it easily could have been. And then it continues with even more of these records. I think they had a conclusion up here. Where was the conclusion? Page 44. Well, let's go ahead and run down to the conclusion, see what they have to say about that. So, conclusion. The curves and the soft banks of Howes Lake are fluid, and so is the ownership of the adjacent land. The ownership of that area didn't start with U.S. government land grants, and it won't end with current owners. The history of Howes Lake, like any other history, is just a snapshot of a longer history. And in some cases, the snapshot is out of focus and needs more information. If you have it, please contact the author. Oh, well, that was quite a bummer of a conclusion. But yeah, so in a nutshell, that was the possible capture of Hal and the other escapees. So there's a whole bunch of history here to read on it. It sounds like even with all this history, they're still unsure. Kind of like that first, that very initial webpage that I showed you guys. As they said, the history is still incomplete. We still don't entirely know, but we do have records of escapees living on that lake and these Spanish settlers going out there and capturing them, right? Doesn't seem like the legend that we heard in that first webpage. There was a big shootout. It sounds like it was just more of a went down there, they captured one, that person gave up the rest of them, and then they gave up more of them until they were all caught. And then that was that. Then they turned them over to whoever. Good news is, yeah, it wasn't the nasty, bloody gunfight that they said it was. Unfortunate news was they did get caught. We don't know if that's Hal, though, and if that was Hal's kingdom. But it is on Hal's Lake that this happened. So it could have been, or Hal could have been a completely different guy that also was in that general area. And could have had a completely different group of escapees. So, oh wow, so Howes Lake is 6 hours from where I'm at. So that's quite a drive. But if we hit up Gadsden, from Gadsden was 3 hours. So it would only be 3 hours from Gadsden to Howes Lake. Look at that though. Mobile right there on the ocean. Not that far away from the coast. We wouldn't be able to see the coast. But yeah, that would definitely be like swamp territory right there, right? So that would be around the Howes Lake. They got a flood warning there. So interesting. But yeah, so no spooky ghosts with this particular legend. That's not why I picked the legend. I picked the legend because it's a really cool legend. That one is actually more of a, I guess you would put it on the list of cool legends, happy legends, right? I mean, it doesn't end very happy, but it's a really neat legend. They actually ended up putting in a historical marker there. It's now called Howes Lake because of that legend. And yeah, it's just really cool. I think that was an interesting one. I think that would make for a really cool movie. Like Jordan Peele could probably make a cool movie out of that. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't think I would trust anybody else to make a good quality movie out of that. I could almost feel like too many details would be changed for the sake of politics instead of just flat ass telling the story, which is always a bummer when that happens. But I will link this, like I said, in the description so anybody who wants to read more on the history of Howes Lake can. But yeah, that was a good little break in the spooky ones. But now we are going to jump back into the spooky legends of Alabama. Now, let me introduce you to Bloody Bones. So this one's real good. I think this one even beats out The Witch on Hines Road. All right. So, Bloody Bones, often used in conjunction with his friend Rawhead, is a boogeyman of British folklore. So, yeah, I know it says British, but stay with me. I know we're talking about Alabama, but that does come up. Give it a second. Through the years, however, the story of Rawhead and Bloody Bones spread to North America and was figuratively adopted by the South. Due to the exposure, it is believed by many to be an originally Southern legend. Crazy, right? So this legend comes all the way from the UK. Children that misbehaved were often threatened with a visit from Bloody Bones. The name Bloody Bones itself could understandably be enough to scare the bad behavior out of a young child. And the nursery rhyme is Rawhead and Bloody Bones steals naughty children from their homes, takes them to his dirty den, and they are never seen again. Pretty simple rhyme there, right? I don't, that's not winning any BET awards anytime soon, but pretty effective for scaring the shit out of a little kid, right? Bloody Bones is sometimes depicted as a pile of bloody bones. Well, that probably makes sense. Like, they weren't too creative with their naming, I guess, in the UK. Rattling to life as a headless horror on which a skinless head, Rawhead, would find its place. Other versions of the tale describe Bloody Bones as a skeletal being, bloody and stripped of mostly bodily tissue. In certain versions of the tale, Rawhead is the severed head of a butchered hog, who, after being brought to life by a vengeful witch, reunites with its scattered bones to find the hunter who had killed it. The abomination enters the hunter's homes through the chimney and ultimately eats him alive. It is said that Bloody Bones' favorite place to hide are in cupboards and under stairs, dark, musty places. Children who are brave enough to peek through a crack may see him, a bloody horror, waiting crouched over a pile of small, childlike bones. The bones of children that misbehaved. If ever you should hear the sound of rattling bones at night, sourcing from the stairwell or your mother's dusty cupboard, it may be best to not peek inside. So this part of this legend I thought was super interesting, not just because it's fucking freaky, and because it goes back so many years. I mean, this legend goes back hundreds of years almost, back in the UK. But once it hit the South, it seems like it split into other legends, which is equally fucking cool and interesting. So we're going to go over both variations of this legend. The one legend that we're going to go over is Bloody Bones. And look at this picture. Isn't that fucking freaky? Like, here, let's blow that up on YouTube screen, just so you guys can see it in its full glory. Oh, look at that smiling little freaky ass shit. What a fucking creeper, right? Just creeping down there. Poor little girl with her big ass candle the size of her head, just coming down here to get some water. And here's this creepy ass little freaker just smiling his face, smiling and shit. So in this legend, Bloody Bones is the headless body. Rawhead is the head that finds the body, and the two of them join forces. You know, it's like, hey, bro, you need a head? He's like, yeah, man, you need a body? He's like, fuck yeah, bro. And then so they team up, like Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. And now they fight crime. No, just kidding. They kill little children. The second story is the one about the pig. Rawhead and Bloody Bones. Rawhead is the name of the big ass pig that gets killed and decides he's not okay with that, and refines his bonely body and becomes a big old giant bony pig thing that fucks people up. So anyways, yeah, we're going to go over both legends, but I think that's really cool how this one legend turned into two completely separate legends once it hit the South, right? And of course, the people in the South would make it a legend about a big ass giant pig, because if you guys watched my Alabama cryptid video, that was one of the very first and probably one of the more realistic cryptids that actually exists in Alabama, is big ass giant 1,000-pound fucking hogs. So, you kill one of those and it comes back from the dead. That is a pretty fucking spooky ass legend, right? Again, that would make a dope ass fucking movie. So anyways, let's read about this first legend, okay? Lost to Time. There's a lot of conflicting information about Rawhead and Bloody Bones due to the fact that the original stories were not recorded. British author M.R. James uses Rawhead and Bloody Bones as a prime example of lost folklore in his 1925 book, An Evening's Entertainment, and laments how the story has been lost even though the name lives on. So I wanted to pull this up right now. Give me a second. One of my favorite authors, Clive Barker. We're going to go over here. I'm not going to go on a rant. This is my rant screen. I'm not going to rant. But I have this tattoo here from this book, And look at that muscle. Not bad, right? Not bad. I think I'm sitting at like 17 inches on those. Not bad. Okay, for 5'10". That's from Clive Barker, his book, The Hellbound Heart. That dude's one of my all-time favorite authors. And he wrote a book called Ooh, Thank You, Cutie. So sexy. I appreciate you. Making me blush on I gotta get off this camera because I'm starting to blush now. So the what's his face? Clive Barker wrote this book called the okay, you got your free show for the night, Missy. All right. I'll give you one later. How's that? Nobody else can see us. Book of Blood, that's it. The Book of Blood. Sounds like a deal. All right. So Clive Barker's Books of Blood. This is such a dope fucking book. If you like short, scary horror stories, you have to check this book out. One of the absolute best, or not this one, Books of Blood. No, sorry, that's anthology written by. Oh no, okay, so this is a film. Okay, this is a film that happened in 2020. You want the books? The books right here. Clive Barker's The Books of Blood. Really great anthology of short horror stories. 6 volumes. Super fucking awesome stories. In those stories, one of his more infamous ones is called Rawhead Rex. And, you know, I read this story a long time ago. It got made into a film, a 1986 film. I don't exactly recommend the 1986 film. The graphics are pretty horrible. Oh, look, they're going to give us a preview. Maybe we'll just get to see, you know, I mean, it's definitely made in 1986, all right? So that's the reality of it. It wasn't, they didn't have the best of graphics back then. And they even with the practical graphics they use are pretty silly. But, and I think it was quite a big difference from the actual original story. See, look at that. Look at Rawhead here. I mean, that's very clearly a dude in a giant, like, ape monkey costume. Look at that. I mean, I still wouldn't want to fuck with that guy. You know, if I ran into a guy wearing that costume in a dark alleyway, I'd probably leave him the fuck alone. I wouldn't, you know, say too many words to him. But, yeah, anyways, I think you could even see his shoes in that last shot. There's Rawhead. So, anyways, yeah, don't recommend the movie, but a movie was made based off the short story. And so, yeah, but the short story is really good. One of my, at least I'd say probably top 25 favorite short horror stories. Got a lot of interesting themes to it. Very well put. I you know, read it and whatever, you know, read it a long, long time ago when I was in like high school, right? So long ago. I'm getting gray hairs just thinking about it. It never occurred to me that Clive Barker, he's British. And when I was doing research for this stream, found the Legend of Rawhead and looked into it, and I'm pretty sure that's where Clive Barker got his inspiration for Rawhead Rex, was the Rawhead children's story, Rawhead and Bloody Bones, which is very interesting. So I thought that was cool. So, you know, had to go on a little bit of rant there just to talk about that. But yeah, so anyways, very famous, the Legend of Rawhead and Bloody Bones, very famous legend in the UK. Right. So some sources claim Rawhead and Bloody Bones are the same entity, or at least closely linked. Others suggest that Rawhead and Bloody Bones are different names for the same creature, while others still tell stories of 2 separate entities that are usually spotted together. Theories as to what this creatures actually are or is even more varied. Bloody Bones is supposedly a classic boogeyman. One of the more common depictions reported in Ruth Tongue's Somerset folklore is of a humanoid creature with blood running down its face. This legend states that if a child is brave enough to peek through the cracks in a cupboard door, they'll see it crouching over a pile of raw bones. The bones once belonged to misbehaving children. I got a burp sneaking up on me. Continuing. Okay. They'll see it crouching over raw bones, maybe misbehaving children. Bloody Bones waits for these naughty children and spirits them away. If you're dared to spy on it, it will take you too. A completely different version of Bloody Bones describes the creature as a water-based demon that haunts the ocean and particularly deep ponds. This version of Bloody Bones would drag stray children into the depths like the Grindy Low. Grindy Low. We'll have to do a whole episode on UK myths and legends. More recent stories of Rawhead and Bloody Bones from southern American states present a very different image. Rawhead is a skinless skull that bites its victims, and Bloody Bones is a headless skeleton that dances. Cultural exchanges. Tales of Rawhead and Bloody Bones are most commonly heard in the southern U.S. states in this modern age, and a lot of people believe that's where the stories come from. Many of the tales that were popularized before the American Civil War originated in the same way. They were stories that were brought to America with enslaved people and then became integrated into white culture. This is what happened with many of the stories now considered to be ingrained into the history of New Orleans, for example, right? So that's where, you got to imagine some of these Alabama myths and legends probably come from, right? When we go up to Alaska to go through their myths and legends, you'll see that's where a lot of the Alaskan myth and legends come from. They come from the Inuit tribe and other tribes of Native Americans up there, Native Alaskans, and in places in the South, it was kind of a combination of enduring myths and legends from Native tribes combined with myths and legends that came over with enslaved people and turned into the local legend down there. However, Rawhead and Bloody Bones is an interesting example where the reverse is true. The stories originated in England and were transferred from the white to the black community. Stories are particularly common in the north of England, though there was a similar tale in Cornwall about Old Bloody Bones. The earliest written record of Bloody Bone, as it was known, was in 1548, according to the Oxford English Dictionary. Bloody Bones and Rawhead have been used to terrify children for centuries. In 1693, John Locke recorded instances of Rawhead and Bloody Bones being used to scare children into behaving. So that's how old this legend is. 1548. How fucking crazy is that? That's so cool. I think that's wild. And I think that's so fucking cool. This is why I wanted to do a Myths and Legends stream, right? Not only do I love the stories and think they're so enjoyable and entertaining, but enjoyable, entertaining, creepy, a lot of them. Howl's Kingdom isn't so creepy, but but the history behind these myths and legends is really fucking cool, dude. Really, really dope. You have Howl's Kingdom and the Ghost of Henry Wells, A Face in the Window, that come from times of slavery. Like I said, the Ghost of Henry Wells really seems like it's more of a collective guilty conscience over what happened to Mr. Henry Wells that turned into a local legend. That, funny enough, ended up not having anything to do with Henry Wells, probably. The Witch on Hines Road is kind of just popped out of nowhere, but it's kind of your classic witch legend, right? The Dead Children's Playground comes from one horrible year where a bunch of people died from the, not the flu, a pandemic that swept through. Howl's Kingdom comes from that same era of slavery. A bit more of a kind of a, not upbeat, I wouldn't say, but more of an upbeat than the rest of these legends for sure. And then Bloody Bones comes from the UK and turned into a whole lot of different stories. And so I wanted to go through here. This is a Reddit, obviously. We're on a Reddit page now. Person asking, this is subreddit Appalachia, person asking about Rawhead and Bloody Bones. I kind of wanted to show you all the different variations people from the area actually, of this area being Alabama and the South, actually have of Rawhead and Bloody Bones. So this person said, I'm researching folklore for a book I'm working on. I have come across the story of Rawhead and Bloody Bones several times. It's about a witch whose slaughtered hog comes to life to get revenge on the man who killed him. Unfortunately, I have not been able to determine where the story originated. Does anyone know when this story was first printed or where it came from? Thanks. This was 4 years ago he posted this. So, a couple of responses. My grandpa used to talk about that story. They used to tell it to him when he was a kid, probably around the mid-50s. He can't remember exactly how it went, but he said it was about something that went around hiding under beds, grabbing people who got up through the night. He said it used to terrify him. This is in southeastern Kentucky, and I'd say it was passed down from older generations, but I don't know where it originated. So Bloody Bones and Rawhead is all over the South. Probably have a bunch of people up here in Tennessee that know it. I don't know where, second comment, I don't know where the story originated, unfortunately, but I'm from Smith County, what is that? Virginia? VA? Is that Virginia? I'm horrible at this. VA. That's not going to sell us anything. State abbreviation VA. Virginia. Okay. Boom, I nailed it. All right. So see, I'm not as stupid as I think. So Smith County, Virginia, and I've never heard of it as anything but rawhide and bloody bones. So now we're even getting into different names, rawhide and bloody bones. Honestly, you could do a whole 2-hour stream just tracking down the history of this one fucking legend, right? Like, that's so cool. I wonder when the name started differentiating. Anyways, I did some initial searching and there's a lot of info. Fortunately, Wikipedia cites all the articles they got their info from. Originated in England and was first in print by John Locke. That would be in 1693, right? We kind of already read that. This person says, my father grew up in eastern Kentucky and was told rawhide and bloody bones lived in the attic. I've heard of the legend of rawhead and bloody bones as Welsh. My dad came from a family of Scot-Irish coal miners. Another person says, I've heard of rawhead and bloody bones from Missouri, specifically the Ozark areas. Hermit woman's razorback that was killed and summoned back with a vengeance to kill a poacher. Like all folklore, it's branched and spread, originating over in Europe, Scottish descent. So there you have it. People in here, North Georgia, my grandparents said rawhide and bloody bones. My great-grandma told me this story when I was younger, and that was in West Virginia mountains. Ooh, we were just there, cutie pie, West Virginia mountains. So yeah, there you have it. This place is all over, this story is all over the South. It's rawhead and bloody bones, rawhide and bloody bones, about a pig, about a pig. This is the pig story right here we're going to go over. The main story, or the original story from the UK was, yeah, I think we were there in West Virginia, or we might have been in West Virginia. Oh, no, we were near the West Virginia border. Okay, we were in Kentucky on the West Virginia border is where we're at. Where the, the Hatfield and McCoys shot each other. So, anyway, here's Rawhead and Bloody Bones, the story about the pig, right? Let's pop over here since it's on the wrong side of my screen. You guys can read it a little better, see it a little better like this. Okay, so happy Halloween, my ghouls and goblins. I have been agonizing for weeks about what to write about for Halloween, and I finally settled on a good old-fashioned ghost story I hope you enjoy. A good ghost story is a tempting siren. It will whisper in your ear to tangle your own words into the original thread of the story, creating a new and more wicked tapestry than the one originally designed. Who wrote this? This is some good writing. Dara Barnwell. Well, Dara Barnwell. Everyone has their favorite, whether it be about a lonely hitchhiker, a lady in white, or an unknown creature that lurks in the shadows. Sometimes it's told again and again, just like you heard it. Other times, it barely resembles the original story and can cause aggravation to the listener who just had their favorite story mangled. Usually, that's the version that gets retold millions of times. Take Rawhead and Bloody Bones, for instance. I've heard this story millions of times, and I think everyone has a different variation. However, it's still a good story. Bloody Bones is a boogeyman feared by children. It is sometimes called Rawhead and Bloody Bones, Tommy Rawhead, or just Rawhead. The term was used to awe children and keep them in subjection, as recorded by John Locke in 1693. The stories originated in Great Britain, where they were particularly common, in Lancaster, in Yorkshire, and spread to North America, where the stories were common in the southern USA. The Oxford English Dictionary cites 1550 as the earliest written appearance as hobgoblin, rawhead, and bloody bone. Bloody Bones is usually said to live near ponds, but according to Ruth Tongue in Somerset folklore, lived in a dark cupboard, usually under the stairs if you were heroic enough, yada, yada, yada. We kind of already went over that. Ooh, that's a really cool image. AI generated, I'm assuming. So how did it start as a boogeyman that lived under the stairs to the fearsome creature that's a common ghost story? As people immigrated to the U.S. and started to populate the hills and hollers around here, their hollers, again, is Alabaman for hollows, around here, their environment and circumstances changed. Instead of keeping people and children in line by the boogeyman who ate wayward children, they molded the story to match their circumstances. People poaching on your land, there is a witch that will curse you if you go there. Someone stealing your livestock, rumor is there is a wild creature that comes out at night to eat wayward travelers. Pretty convenient, but of course, this is just a theory. Either way, some of these stories were retold and shaped into what our oral history is now. Ghost stories just happen to be a fun and tantalizing part of it. So without further ado, I present to you Rawhead and Bloody Bones, the pig version. Back in the days of horse and wagon, when the Ozark Hills were still wild and untamed, there was a conjuring woman who lived deep in the woods. To the neighboring farms and small village, she was known as Old Lizzie. Old Lizzie could cure anything that ailed a man and often sold her remedies at the general store in town. Everyone came to Old Lizzie for ailments, but no one liked to stay and visit. Old Lizzie, I just got that. No one liked to stay and visit. Yeah, well, that's funny. Old Lizzie ended up adopting a wild razorback hog for a companion. She fed him scraps, scratched his ears, and kept him healthy. She even talked to him like he was a person. She called him Rawhead. Now, most folks in the area knew that Old Lizzie's property was off limits to hunting and fishing. She wouldn't abide poaching, and folks said that if you crossed her, bad things would happen to you. But that didn't stop Old Dan. Oh, fucking Old Dan. Old Dan was a mean and nasty feller. He'd steal you blind, poach off your land, steal your vegetables out of your garden. What an asshole. Yeah, fuck this guy. And word around the area was he used to be a cattle rustler. We call those cattle hustlers in Wyoming. He never learned anything a day in his life except maybe a jail sentence. Nice. It was getting about hog scalding time. I wonder what that is, hog scalding time? And the neighborhood men were gathering their hogs up to take to the holler and butcher for the winter's meat. Old Dan didn't have any hogs and wasn't about to go hungry all winter. He went out and gathered up a bunch of wild razorbacks to take them to the holler. On his way, he passed Old Lizzie's place and saw Rawhead rooting for acorns. He caught him and drove old Rawhead to the holler with the other hogs. Had to take a pause for nasty human noises. Old Lizzie woke up that morning and called for Rawhead. He didn't show up for breakfast. He didn't show up for lunch. She went looking for him in his favorite spots, but by dusk still hadn't found him. Becoming worried, she went home and decided she'd have to find her beloved pet by magical means. She poured an old potion in a plate and asked where her hog was. The liquid began to flash scenes of Rawhead getting rounded up by Old Dan, walking with the other hogs to Hog Scald Holler, and getting his throat cut and butchered. The last scene was his pile of bloody bones and his head scraped clean. Infuriated by the murder of her only friend, Old Lizzie went to the cupboard and pulled out a dusty old book. It was a book that her granny told her not to use unless there was a dire need. Old Lizzie angrily wiped away her tears and began to light candles and chant, "Rawhead and Bloody Bones, Rawhead and Bloody Bones." The last of the evening light disappeared. A wicked wind howled through Hog Scald Holler. She chanted and chanted until a flash of lightning erupted from her cabin and struck the bones of Rawhead. Rawhead's head began to twitch and clank. It gnashed its teeth together and roared, "Bloody Bones, get up and dance." His bloody bones and those of a few other animals cracked and clacked and joined together, and Rawhead's head perched on top. He stood taller than a man with his wicked red eyes and bloody bones. He began to run through the woods looking for weapons to use against the vile hunter who took his life. He found a panther's fangs, a bear's claw, and the tail of a rotten coon. He raced through the old... Ooh, look at that picture. That's a spooky one, yeah? Again, AI generated. He raced through the darkness of Old Dan's barn and waited for the old hunter to come out. Soon, Old Dan made it home and unhitched his horse. There, lurking in the shadows, was Rawhead. Fear coursed through the old hunter as he tried to back away. He was so scared he began to babble. "What have you got those big eyes for?" We have to give him the Alabama twang. "What do you got them big eyes for?" Rawhead stepped a little closer. "To see your grave," he said. The old man backed into a corner and tried to feel his way to the door. What have you got those big great claws for?" Rawhead crept even closer. "To dig your grave," he said. The old man was shaking and quaking as he still looked for the door. "What do you got them stupid tail for?" Rawhead now, the stupid tail. Rawhead now stood in front of the trembling man. "To sweep your grave," he growled. The man could no longer move. Staring up at the terror in front of him, he whispered, "What do you got them big old teeth for?" Redhead screamed into the night. "To eat you like you wanted to eat me." and pounced on them. Folks say you could hear a loud scream coming from old Dan's place that night, but no one ever seen or heard from the old poacher again. But sometimes folks swear that in the light of the fall moon, you can see Rawhead walking with old Lizzie, and if you listen carefully, you can hear his bloody bones clacking together. Ooh, good stuff. Yeah, I like that. So, I gotta say, that's probably, I think that beats The Witch of Hines Roads. I do. Bloody Bones, I think, is better than The Witch of Hines Roads, even better in Howl's Kingdom, and even better than The Dead Children Playground. I'm going to call that one my favorite. And that's The Legends of Rawhead and Bloody Bones with the pig added in there, right? Instead of the original UK version, which was just a skeleton and a separate head, or a skeleton dude with a bloody head. I think this one takes the cake for me. I like this version better. So, anyway, we're going to move on. I got a couple more legends to go over with you, and I only got about 13 minutes left to do it before I usually end the stream. Terrifying Tuesdays, a lot of times I like to go a little bit longer because I enjoy talking about this spooky shit. So we'll make sure we cover both these, even if I run a little late on time. But one of them is going to be pretty quick. We're going to hop to this one. I was going to save this one for last because it seems like it's one of the most common, or at least one of the more celebrated legends in Alabama. It's the legend of Huggin Molly. All right. So let's go ahead and take a listen, or we'll do a little bit of reading and see what the legend of Huggin Molly is, right? So in the small town in Alabama, a big thing is haunting the streets and are after the town's children. The scary apparition of the black-clad Huggin Molly is still on the prowl. Children should be home before dark. There is no telling what hides in the shadows, emerging after the sun sets. But the people of Abbeville in South Alabama, they have a pretty good idea of what darkness that lurk in the shadows. I don't understand that sense. In the streets and behind the bushes and in the dark corners. The children of Abbeville, Alabama, have been warned plenty of times to stay indoors after dark. If not, they might encounter the creature known as Huggin Molly on the streets. The colonial town of Abbeville. The small place of Abbeville looks like any other small colonial town in the South, with the cute brick houses with the flag waving towards the paved street and with a population around 2,000. Oh, wow, that's the size of Douglas, where I come from. The climate is hot during the summer and mild during the winter. The people can shop in small boutiques and eat at the family restaurant, a place where people know one another. It is also why when a stranger starts to roam the street, the townspeople take notice as they watch from hammocks on their front porches. The town of Abbeville has seen many tragedies through the years. Not only the hardship of the European settlers, the surrendering of the Creek Nation, and a town in southern Alabama also made it hard for the black people all the way up to the segregation times. I mean, I know what they were going for there, but that sentence just made no damn sense. Who wrote this? Of course, they didn't put their name on it. I probably wouldn't either if I was them. Yeah, can't find the author, which is probably a good thing. I would hide my name too. You need to do a little bit of spell checking with this one, guy. All right. So, anyways, there were reported lynchings and sexual violence that went unpunished, making the streets more difficult for black people than the children that was warned to stay indoors after sundown. See, this just too much more of this, and I'm not going to be able to hack it. The southern town had also experienced tragedies that left a collective trauma so hard that legend took form. One of these being after the fire. At the start of the 1900s, an arsonist burned down all of Abbeville, and this is also at the time when it looks like the legend of Huggin Molly took form. The town was also ravaged by an F2 tornado that destroyed many of the old buildings, forcing the town to build on top of the old. Wow, so tornado, arsonists just kicking their ass all in 1 year. So, but these tragedies are not the things Huggin Molly is about. Oh, well, then why bring them up? Rather, one of the town's collective tragedies. This is one of the town's biggest mysteries. So, on a cold, dark, rainy night, so bitterly cold, damp, and dark, when even street lights won't burn and the striking of a match refuses to yield the tiniest flame, On nights like this, Huggin' Molly comes out of her lair and roams the streets of Abbeville to see whom she can find. Well, I know whoever wrote that definitely didn't write the article. So begins one account of the story that people of Abbeville have told each other since the early 1900s, the local legend known as Huggin' Molly, or the Lady in Black. Who is this woman all clad in black, and why is she after the children of Abbeville? What does she want with them? The local legend of Huggin' Molly has it that a tall figure, around 7 feet tall, started walking the streets of Abbeville, looking for victims, mostly children. She has no name other than what the townsfolk started calling her, no face to speak of, and no one knows why she is after the children. She almost has this witch-like status around her, although her behavior is anything but. Huggin' Molly is said to be dressed in all black with a wide-brim hat, also black, wandering through the night in the disguise of the shadows where even the streetlights won't illuminate her identity. Once she found a victim, an innocent child wandering after dark, she attacks, hugging the person tightly as she is screaming loudly into their ears. They got a problem with their past and present tense is what's going on here. This is it, as there are no other stories of her actually hurting anyone. She simply hugs them, although terrifying enough on its own. But are there any origin stories to this local legend of a hugging ghost? Yeah, so that's about it. I mean, they call her Huggin' Molly because she hugs the shit out of you. Hey, look, if a 7-foot tall woman all dressed in black came up and hugged your ass out of nowhere, you'd freak out too, all right? Don't give me no shit, all right? You might think you're tough, but 7-foot tall woman hugging your ass out of nowhere, nah, you're going to freak out. Who she is supposed to have been is up for debate and changes as the story itself changes throughout times. Was she a witch or the ghost of a woman that used to live in Abbeville? Is she something completely different from a human? I thought this was connected to a tragedy, right? Didn't they mention up here earlier in the article that this was about a tragedy? One of the town's collective tragedies? Okay, well, we'll have to see. In some accounts, when the local townspeople tell the legend, Huggin' Molly was a woman living in Abbeville a long time ago. She experienced a mother's worst nightmare when she lost her own child. Her grief was too much to bear, and it made her mad. Her grief was too much to bear, and it made her mad. Well, that is some award-winning writing right there, folks. She started to roam the nights and went after the local children to make up for the death of her child, like it was a way of dealing with the tragedy of losing her own. In other accounts of the legend, she was a woman who got murdered in cold blood on the very streets she is now haunting and is trying to fulfill something. Perhaps she was killed after dark, with no one to look out for her, and is now in turn looking out for others. Perhaps the real story behind the legend is the version about her being a professor at what used to be Alabama Agricultural School, as some of the variations of the legend suggest. In these versions, she is only trying to keep the students safe by getting them off the streets at night. Or perhaps she wasn't a ghost at all that haunted the streets in her afterlife, but someone or something getting dressed up specifically for this, to walk out in the dark to scare and hug children. Somehow this comes off as almost more frightening than a ghost who only wants a hug. Yeah, I agree with that. And we'll get into rest of that here in a minute. Okay, well, so there's in general what the legend is. I got to look up where Abbeville is. So yeah, the legend of Flogging Molly, that's a band. Shitballs. How did they spell Abbeville? Abbeville, Alabama. So where is this at? Ooh, that's a good 6-hour drive. But I betcha if we went to Gadsden is 3 hours, and then 3 hours to Abbeville, right? So right about there. Is that where Abbeville is? I'm getting mixed signals from this. Oh, I see. Yeah. No, I don't see. What? Abbeville. Okay, yeah, right there. So Abbeville. Yeah. All right. Go back. So, anyways, let's go ahead and I got a video. Nice. Okay, I knew I had another video. I just forgot when it pops up. So this is by Bama Geeks, right? So I thought I'd give some locals a chance to speak about the legend of hugging Molly. But yeah, in general, hugging Molly is just a big ass woman dressed in black who really likes to hug people on the streets at night, which is what makes it really weird. You know, she just randomly comes up. She doesn't ask, no permission, no consent given. Bitch just jumps right in your bubble and just hugs the fuck out of you. So, yeah, that's the story. But let's see what these locals have to say about it. Maybe they can illuminate it better than that absolutely horribly written article did, because that was just an absolute shite article there. Sometimes I don't read these articles. Sometimes I do before stream, and sometimes I don't. So a lot, it seems like every time I don't, I end up getting kicked in the ass for it. So that was an example of that. But I did watch this video. Let's see what these folks have to say a little bit about.
Huggin' Molly. The name of this just cracks me up. Huggin' Molly. And
Huggin'
in
Molly.
the southeast Alabama city of Abbeville, this is Henry County, very near, just to the north of Dothan.
We're going to turn the
Mhm.
volume
This is
up
very
just a
close to
little
where I
bit.
grew up.
6.9.
Yeah. Huggin' Molly is apparently a thing, and the story came about around 1890 to 1900. One of the stories
How's
is,
that
of course,
volume?
just like Crybaby
Hopefully that volume's good.
Hollow. There's a few different variations of this. One story is of a woman in black thought to be an unwed mother that was allegedly poisoned by the child's father to get rid of her because she wanted to keep the child and he did not. Another story centers on a man instead of a woman. It's a man in this case.
Have to point out, if you didn't already notice, the sign of Abbeville right here. Welcome to Abbeville, home of Huggin' Molly, and it's a woman chasing it's supposed to be a woman chasing a dude. It looks like a woman chasing a kid, but that's actually supposed to be a grown-ass man that she's chasing, but that's hilarious. The towns really plays into it, and we'll get to that here in a minute, because they do love that legend out there in Abbeville.
That was in black who had died in prison and was roaming the streets of Abbeville trying to reunite with family. And I put in here that is it a cautionary folk tale or a real apparition? Because parents, of course, over the years, and I'm sure they still do this because it's funny now, because you see what their slogan is on their "Welcome to Abbeville" sign.
Yeah.
Is don't stay out too late or Huggin' Molly will get you. Well, well, the whole reason that Huggin' Molly even became a story is, as I said, this story all culminated between 1890 and 1900. Sometime in around the late 19 teens, there was a man who was interviewed sometime in the 1960s that when he was about 19 years old, so sometime around 1915, 1920, had been working for a grocery store in downtown Abbeville and had been delivering groceries that day. And it was very close to dusk, and he was headed home. And he was walking to his house on East Washington Street, wherever that is in Abbeville, and heard footsteps behind him. And he turned around and he sees this very tall figure. So one of the other points about Huggin' Molly is, I think I'll get to that in just a minute, but it's a very tall figure, so upwards of 7 feet tall. And as you see from the picture, it kind of emulates that's an adult in front, and that's Huggin' Molly behind. So Huggin' Molly's pretty tall.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
Right.
I was thinking that was a kid.
Exactly. And the apparition was told that the way they killed you is they hugged you to crush you to death. So Huggin' Molly.
Okay.
So
you
So just wanted to point out, this guy definitely done his research, right? That article that I could have just read for you guys, maybe the person who wrote it did their research. I'm highly doubting at, seeing as how horrible they were at just basic fucking spelling. But this dude right here, Michael Nix, he did some serious research in this, and he says the legend of Huggin' Molly is she comes up and yeah, she hugs your ass, but she hugs your ass to death. Like, she means to kill you. She just does it by hugging. So think of like hugging a pet that you love way too fucking much, right? And then he dies. Oh no, poor little Spot or whatever the fuck ever, right? So more like that. Not so much helping college kids get home like that article said.
It would have been totally safe during the pandemic since, everybody had to stay 6 feet apart.
Sure, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Hug and Molly might not have understood that.
Do you
as a
think
rule.
Hug and Molly would have adhered to social distancing?
She had a mask.
Probably not. Yeah, that gown I'm sure had her covered up pretty well. But he turns around, he sees this tall figure in a black robe, and he takes off running. And of course, after a few minutes, he turns around and looks, and it's gone. So I don't know if it was one of his friends playing a joke. But several years later, sometime in the 1930s or 40s, another man was walking home from work who had lived somewhere near downtown. He was on Elm and Clendenin streets, weird name, near his home, and it was the same situation. He hears footsteps behind him. He turns and looks. There's this tall figure wearing a black robe. He takes off running, and Hug and Molly is right on his tail to the point that he gets home, runs up his sidewalk. His mother just happens to be on the front porch and sees this as well, and it disappears.
Okay.
So,
Ooh.
not necessarily someone's friend who was playing jokes.
Yeah.
So, and interestingly, there's a restaurant in Abbeville called Hug and Molly's.
I see that.
So, as you can tell from their
Interesting.
city limits,
All right, so I told you they love Hug and Molly out there in Abbeville. Yeah, I even got the Hug and Molly's restaurant out there. So if we do go on a road trip, Cutie Pie, Yumi, and Bunny to go look at haunted shit, we gotta stop by, eat at Hug and Molly.
sign, they play up Hug and Molly pretty heavy to the point
Yeah.
they even have a restaurant in Abbeville,
Huh.
Okay,
which
so
has been there for a very long time. It looks like a
Yeah.
So you said this is close to Dothan?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
it's
Yes,
a little
it's
bit
on
north, maybe 10, 15
Okay.
miles, maybe
it's on
maybe
431.
further. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, as you're heading up towards Eufaula. Yeah, we'll stop. We'll stop in next time we head down to that part of
Yeah.
the state.
We're
to
gonna
see
have to
some
check that
family.
out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hug and
definitely.
Molly.
So several other stories. Those are just a handful of the ones I thought were the most interesting that I could dig up.
I like that one.
But yeah, I don't know if they still have a soda fountain inside that restaurant or not. It's set up very
Ooh.
1940s, 50s.
Oh, that's so cool. Soda fountain. I used to live right next to Santa Monica Pier in California, and they had an old school soda fountain there where they'd give you the phosphorus sodas. For those of you that don't know, old school sodas before like Dr. Pepper and all that shit, they would put phosphorus rocks and ice in a cup and then pour syrup and carbonated water on it. And those phosphorus rocks would bubble up. The phosphorus rocks would carbonate the syrup and the water. And it was, oh man, it was so delicious. I used to get chocolate Cokes like every day down there. Chocolate sodas, not chocolate Coke, chocolate sodas. And man, they were so good.
Desk with the tile and all that. I
Mm-hmm.
think it had been a restaurant. I don't know if it's been Hug and Molly's all this time, but it had been a restaurant for a very long time. It's just called Hug and Molly's now. And it says drugs at the top. So, of course, this was one of the old drugstores
Yeah.
that had a restaurant in it as well from back years ago.
Yeah, that's kind of like Center and Gilstrap drugs back home in Geneva. My mom, I think she was at no, it wasn't not Center Drugs, was not the restaurant. It was Gilstrap Drugs downtown. My mom worked there when she was in high school.
Mhm.
She was a soda jerk there at the old drugstore. So I'm definitely interested to.
I like the look of that. I like
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
like
looks
the
very
aesthetic
cool.
of that. Yeah.
And kids, if you don't know what a soda jerk is, it's the person behind the counter waiting on you and getting your drinks and everything.
Yeah, I'm glad he explained that. So, anyways, yeah, now he just goes on and keep talking about his mom, kind of derails the conversation. So, but anyways, yeah, so that's the couple of different legends with Hug and Molly. There was another really funny one that I didn't end up including in here. Oh, here we go. This is actual Hug and Molly's, the restaurant right here. This is their website. And they don't got the biggest, biggest menu over here. Got your onion rings, crawfish. Ooh, mozzarella sticks. I fucking love mozzarella sticks. Got sandwiches, got your po' boys, basic, Southern comfort food, right? From the fountain. Maybe they are old school fountain. But, pretty simple menu, but, and it's like a diner, right? But then there's the Hug and Molly's legend. But yeah, thought that was kind of cool. Thought I'd showcase that restaurant. There was also a couple. gonna hop back over here to the rant menu or the rant screen. So there's also a couple old reports that I found of, I think from like the 1980s. It was some guy in Abbeville was dressed up as Huggin' Molly and started running around and giving random girls hugs. He obviously they caught him and they said, "Hey, bro, you can't do that. That's assault, brother." And so that was a no-go. But I think it was a college kid who thought it would be like funny to go down there and as a way to pick up chicks, dress as Huggin' Molly and hug random girls. So that's kind of a funny, I suppose, part of the legend, a bit silly. But yeah, so anyways, that's the legend of Huggin' Molly down there in Abbeville. And as you've probably seen there's so many different variations to the story of Huggin' Molly. Again, like that one article we read, I didn't read that article beforehand, otherwise I probably wouldn't have included it. There's nowhere else that I see there was some kind of tragedy associated with her. And even in that article, it didn't tell you what the fuck the tragedy was. It said, this is about a tragedy, a collective tragedy. And then it goes on to talk about absolutely no tragedy. Somebody who has probably shouldn't be writing articles is what that was. It is what it is. But yeah, but there's multiple stories on where Huggin' Molly comes from. But in general, and what she does too, there was a bunch of stories of her just coming after kids. Then there's a story of her coming after anybody that's out late. She just hugs you and screams in your face and disappears, or she hugs you to death. One or the other, and a really fun, interesting local legend. So we're going to hop into the last one of the night. I'm a little bit over my stream time, but I'm having fun talking about this. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Athens State University. So Athens State University is obviously a college in Alabama that has so many ghost stories attached to it. So fucking many of them. It just, too many to even go over with what time we have left in the stream. But AI here gave us a quick rundown of some of the top 4 ghost stories associated with this college, because this college has so many ghost stories associated with it. 1, there's haunted buildings on campus. Many buildings on campus, particularly older ones like Founders Hall, are rumored to be haunted. Stories abound of students experiencing strange occurrences like unexplained noises, cold spots, or the feeling of being watched. Die-hard alumni. Some legends focus on this idea of alumni who are particularly dedicated to the university and who are said to still roam the halls. These stories often involve ghostly apparitions or unexplained events occurring near the favorite spots on campus. The spirit of a former student. A specific legend involves the spirit of a student who died tragically on campus. Some students claim to have heard their voice or felt their presence in certain areas, particularly around the dormitories. And other paranormal activity beyond specific location. There are general reports of paranormal activity throughout campus, including unexplained lights, footsteps, and other disturbances. I think this AI list changed since the last time I actually pulled it up. Because there we go. See, it just changed again. Yeah, that's a bummer. So yeah, there was a couple distinct stories that we wanted to take a look at. I think one was Founders Hall, and then there's another story over here of Abigail's Ghost. Is another famous story on Athens University campus, but there was multiple of them. So anyway, we're gonna go back to Joshua Darren here, my boy Joshua. If you guys ever watched that Alabama cryptids that I showed, Joshua here is a smaller YouTube channel. Give him a like. Here, we'll give him a like right here. He's only got 3 likes. Let's help this guy out. Where he goes over a bunch of Alabama cryptids. And he had a video on one of the legends, the legend of Founders Hall on Athens State University. So, of course, I thought we'd watch it because he was a pretty good source of information. So, we're going to pop over to the YouTube screen and hear what he has to tell us about Founders Hall.
The school was officially created in 1822 for women, and Founders Hall was eventually built between 1842 and 1845 to replace a small house that they were learning in. It was also one of the few places that remained standing when Union soldiers came to trash the city. In 1931, male students were allowed to attend, and in 1975, it officially became a state university. This university has several haunted buildings in McCandless and Brown Hall, but Founders Hall seems to be the one with the most activity. The reason? Well, several ghosts. One of them happened to be a female student who lost her life after her hair caught fire from a candle. And she is usually the one to blame for lights coming on and off, people hearing disembodied voices, as well as disembodied footsteps, frequent cold spots, and a phantom figure that's constantly seen in the windows. That activity could also be attributed to a former stable boy at the university. Sometimes seen, he's known to be rather mischievous. The activity could also be attributed to a man who helped build the hall, who was said to like his spirits. And like I always say about things in Alabama, if it was built in the 1800s, it's most likely haunted, and Founders Hall seems to fit the bill. School.
All right. So there you go. Pretty quick rundown of the Founders Hall ghost. Athens State University. There it is. Oh, look at that. That's only an hour and a half from where I'm at. Oh, shit. Road trip. An hour and a half to Athens State University. Then, gosh, probably only, what would that be? 15-minute drive? 20-minute drive to Huntsville? I guess they said the Dead Children's Playground was 2 hours, so maybe a half-hour drive to the Dead Children's Playground. And then a 2-hour drive, because it was 3 hours, to Gadsden over here, to go visit the Witch on Hines Road. And then another 3-hour drives down to Abbeville to see Hug and Molly. And that's what I had, right? And then Bloody Bones, House Kingdom, you could always go there. Oh, yeah. And there was from Gadsden would be a 3-hour drive to go see, what was the name of that fucking town? Shit, it was Carroll something. No, not Carbon Hill. To see the face in the window, the ghost of Henry Whale. It wasn't Cottondale. It was somewhere around these here parts right here. Something like that. They got a, oh yeah, here we go. Recent. Abbeville. Carlton, that's it. Right, yeah, so look it. Boom, hour and a half. Half hour. Another 2 hours. Probably, well, that ain't 2 hours. That's probably an hour, right? That's what, 2 hours to Gadsden. And then Carlton, another 2 hours or 3 hours from Gadsden to Carlton. And that's probably, they said this was probably a 3-hour drive right here. So that's probably a 3 or 4 hour drive to Abbeville. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if we really wanted to, we could zigzag over there. Or you'd probably go down here. But yeah, that would be a fun ass fucking little road trip right there. I'm going to have to save this. Can I save? No. Okay. All right. Well, I'll figure it out off stream. But that would be a blast to go check all that shit out, right? Okay, anyways. We're going to get into WAFF 48 News. And they're going to talk about exploring the paranormal on Athens State College campus. So, Athens, Alabama. Founded in 1822, Athens State University is one of the oldest institutions in our region. But after nearly 200 years, it has different accolade too. Some consider it one of the most haunted. If you work there all the time, you don't think anything about it, said Sandra Stockton. Stockton graduated from Athens State and worked on campus for 3 decades. She knows the ins and outs of the school, and she's heard it all. Oh, there's a lot of stories, but are they true? WAFF teamed up with Sci-Fi Network's Deep South Paranormal to find out. Oh, we heard about that earlier. John Hodges, Benny Reed, and Keith Ramsey have investigated spirits, ghosts, and anything else that goes bump in the night for more than a decade. I imagine that's the Deep South Paranormal. They call us the Bama Boys, said Hodges. And he said it just like that. We're the Bama Boys. The 3 agreed to let WAFF reporter Nick Lau follow them around Athens State. The investigation started at Brown Hall, considered one of the spookier buildings on campus. While I was working there, we moved the president's office to Brown Hall, says Stockton. We were told when we first started in that building by some people that had worked in there before to never be left alone. According to Stockton, Brown Hall used to be an infirmary, the president's office, and art classrooms. Stories range from appliances unplugging themselves to pictures taking on demonic looks. And stories like that are why the Bama Boys decided to pull out a spirit box. They said the equipment quickly scans through radio frequencies, and the groups claimed it allows spirits to speak through white noises. Within minutes, Hodges asked what city the investigators were in, and the box responded, Athens. After an hour inside Brown Hall, the team spent the rest of the night in Founders Hall. Rumors are ripe of former female students haunting the third floor, which used to hold the dorms. According to Stockton, there's also a documented death of a student on a staircase. She was supposedly coming down the steps on the north end of the building, and somehow or another she caught fire and she tumbled down the stairs and died. Oh, that's a bummer. Hell of an accident there, right? The crew had one of their volunteers walk down the stairs with a lantern, but that triggered nothing. And after spending far too long talking to thin air, everyone headed upstairs. The plan on the third floor was for Keith Ramsey to play music in hopes of drawing something out. Within seconds of walking up the stairs, a WAFF camera captured a voice nobody can explain. Ramsey asked if it was okay for him to start playing music, and a voice whispered, okay. That was when Strange hit a whole new level. The paranormal team set a flashlight on the ground. Over a 10-minute period, on 3 different occasions, in 3 different areas of the third floor, the flashlight inexplicably turned on. Ooh, spooky shit. Okay, so that is, wait, what's this? Actor John Cena. You're not in this. Get out of here, John Cena. Okay, so that was some of the ghosts in Brown Hall and Founders Hall. I'm moving a little fast because this is my last slide and I'm fucking starving. So, Abigail's apparition. So, let's see. The narrative displayed on the following page describes the events surrounding one of the more famous ghosts in northern Alabama. Notice specifically that it says historical references to famous persons who appeared there over the years have given rise to several legends, including that of a beautiful young actress who performed the opera La Traviata at the dedication of the auditorium in 1914. Apparently, Abigail Burns' existence and dedication were not to be questioned, only the legend that surrounds her. The narrative was included in an announcement by the Athens State College Parapsychology Foundation, Athens, Alabama, publicizing a special performance of selections from Verdi's La Traviata by the Huntsville Opera Theater. The event was to be held in memory of Abigail on May 12, 1987, in McCandless Auditorium on the campus of Athens State College, where Miss Burns supposedly had reappeared as an apparition over the years. So this is a story about that. Now, I'm not going to go over the whole thing because it's a pretty long read. But yeah, here's the announcements. Abigail Lilia Burns, 1892 to 1914. One of the more widely known paranormal occurrences in northern Alabama is the reoccurring apparition of a beautiful young woman in McCandless Hall on the campus of Athens State College. The splendid Greek Revival structure houses the college's art, music, and drama departments, as well as a magnificent auditorium. Historical references to famous persons who appeared there over the years have given rise to several legends, including that of a beautiful young actress who performed the opera La Traviata at the dedication of the auditorium in 1914. She so enraptured the warm audience, the legend goes, that even after many curtain calls, it remained reluctant to let her go. Finally, the young actress, dressed in a white gown and clutching a bouquet of red roses, made a curtain call and in tears promised to return, even if, she vowed, it is the last thing I do. With that pledge, she departed in the blustery night by carriage for her next engagement in Huntsville, Alabama. Unfortunately, that ill-omened journey was to be cut short. Near midnight, the troop, then several miles outside the city, was caught in a severe thunderstorm. The horse-drawn carriage vibrated against the force of the wind and torrential rain. Upon reaching a bridge, the already frightened horses, startled by a sudden clap of thunder, lunged forward, disengaging the carriage, which then plunged over the side of the bridge and into the bedrock below. The actress then plunged. The actress, mortally injured, was pulled from the wreckage. Still wearing the white gown and clutching the bouquet of red roses, she was heard to say, "I have a promise to keep. I must return." Soon after her death, a tree planted in her honor a few feet from the side entrance of McCandless Auditorium. A tree was planted there. The tree, a giant beech tree, still stands in mute testimony of the town's endless affection for an actress they loved and embraced as their own. Deep into the winter following her death, a ghostly image of a young woman, her golden hair glistening in the moonlight, was sighted at a third-floor window of McCandless Hall. She wore a white gown, and at her breast she clutched a bouquet of red roses. Through the years, the sightings continued. A beautiful but pensive young woman bathed in the light, always clutching a bouquet of red roses, faithfully keeping her vigil. All right. So that's the story of Abigail Linda Burns. This right here is an actual report of them doing an opera in her honor to see if she actually appears. And this was in 1978, 1987, this opera. And you can read this in your own time if you're so inclined. It's a bit of a long read. I'm going to go ahead down to the finale. So if you want to read this on your own, go ahead and let go of the video and you can read it on your own, then come back. But the finale. Of great interest to my skeptical thinking class was Abigail's persistence. Even though she had been thoroughly disproved, certain members of the Parapsychology Foundation still discussed Abigail's memorial and her rosy-scented return on May 12th. Abigail's persistence was a perfect example of cognitive bias. Selective perception and selective exposure had caused reason to continue to sleep, and as the adage warns, the sleep of reason brings forth monsters. In this case, the monster was a golden-haired, white-clothed singer, but in 7 seeking students, reason had not slept. So, basically, in a nutshell, they did the opera. A few people claimed to have seen her, but there was no actual reports. There was no actual proof. Nobody got a snapshot or a camera or anything like that. No pictures were taken of her ghost or anything of the sort. So, that's what ended up happening. But that is the story of the ghost of Abigail Burns, who supposedly haunts Athens State University in Athens College. One of the many ghosts that supposedly haunts Athens College, which is supposedly a hot spot. And that is the end of our Alabama Myths and Legends episode, the first episode in my what's going to be a long-running series, a 50-episode series, Myth and Legends from every single state. So, the next time I see you guys here for another Myths and Legends series episode will be the second Tuesday of next month. We will be hitting Alaska Myth and Legends, and I just got done putting these slides together for that episode, so that'll be a pretty good episode. Most of those Myth and Legends will include a lot of native Alaskan stories. Sorry, I'm getting heartburn. Got to take one of these Tums for my tum. If I can get it in my mouth. There we go. Ooh. Ooh. I'm burning up. You got enough of my tattoo. Naughty little girl. That's all you want. That's the only reason you watch this show. You just want to see my tattoo some more. I'm being objectified over here, damn it. Oh, that's funny. Oh, well, thank you, cutie. I appreciate it. You're so sweet. But that does it for me. I'm out of here. I need to go get some food. I'm thinking I'm going to make me a big fat fucking omelet with some Canadian bacon. Ooh, sounds so good. To anybody who watched this live, including you, Hot Stuff, thank you so much for watching and supporting the show. Please consider following. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you also for watching the channel. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please like and subscribe and check out some of the other videos on my channel. We have a list of Alabama cryptids as somewhere on my YouTube channel. And up here soon will be a list of Alaskan cryptids. And I already got a whole bunch of other YouTube videos about different ghosts and shit up there. So if you like this sort of stuff, check out all those other videos and consider coming over to the Twitch channel and watching this live with me and sit here and bullshitting with me and my cutie pie. We'd appreciate having you. If you do enjoy this sort of content, it's every Tuesday. I started today at like 7:30. I'm kind of fiddle fucking with the time. It'll say it on my Twitch channel when I start. Next Tuesday, we're going to be going over the history of creepypastas. Is my next Terrifying Tuesday. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm a huge fan of creepypastas. If you don't know what that is, pretty much everybody nowadays knows what that is. But if you don't, you definitely got to check that stream out. My next stream will be tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Wildlife Wednesdays. And I'm doing what is this called? A stream. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm streaming. I'm a streamer. We'll be doing a stream on mysterious natural phenomenon. So I got a list of natural phenomenon that is not explained by science. We got the dancing forest, the Hezbollah lights, the boiling river in the Amazon. Why is that boiling? Well, we don't know. Ball lightning and star jelly, and fairy circles. So if you don't know what any of those things are, you should tune in tomorrow at around 7 p.m. I'll let you know. It'll say on my Instagram and my Twitter or my Twitch channel. Not my Twitter. I'm not doing that right now. I'll integrate that at some point in the future. But that's happening tomorrow for Wildlife Wednesdays. So that does it to me. Thank you for everybody who is watching tonight. I really appreciate your support. You have a wonderful rest of your night, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.